John Hawkins showed up in our country, telling us of a land filled with luxury. He said, black man, follow me to America. There you'll find more gold for your labor. Our foreparents were tricked onto his boat. Since that time we've been wrestling with the goat. We landed here in Jamestown, Virginia, 400 years to suffer. So my easy to tell, white man heaven is black man hell.
Make sure that the sound is coming through good. It's okay over here on my side. I just want to make sure, okay, is it really? Okay, let's make sure now. Let's make sure the sound is going through. We don't want any problems today. We want to make sure everything is going through right. Okay, let's check it. Let's check it. Okay. How's the sound, family? For those who are here, just let me know if the sound is coming through loud and clear.
Liberty or give us death, the whole black world has their eyes on you to see what the so-called Negro is going to do. So my friend, it's easy to tell, our unity will give the white man hell. God made a promise to Abraham, his seed would be a stranger.
All right.
In a foreign land, they would suffer and be afflicted 400 years, but he would come and wipe away their tears. Our God and Savior, Allah has come. He has declared the white man's day is done. He has given us a divine messenger, one prophesied to come. His name is Elijah. We now can stand up, the whole world to tell. Our God has come to give us heaven and take the devil into hell.
Off. That means we had maybe a temporary power outage or blink that would not be off. If you don't see me, I'll be right back on. I'll be right back on immediately to the phone. That being said, I want to just say I'm going to show my face here for a while. Wow. Take this banner off. Well, like I said, in Black Church, there's so many things about it that we are so dysfunctional about. There's so many things about it that we in a generational way, we pass on a lots of shame, right? Oh, there you go. All right. Beautiful. Beautiful. We pass on lots of shame. There's a lot of denial. Our kids are suffering. the things that we carried on down through generations has nothing to do with the Creator, even though we say it does. We cut out parts of the Word of God, the Scripture, and we leave in parts. We twist away words to fit our narrative, to fit the dysfunctions that we have, to inflict punishment on children unnecessarily, damaging their psyches. And really and truly, it's a toxic place where we can use God in a way, the concept of God, and saying that God, this person who's going to throw you into hell if you don't do right. I'm an angry God. And I mean, we go out into nature and it's so beautiful, calm and peaceful. To me, the ultimate manifestation of God, the order that's righteous, and you learn so much lessons by being out there. When you go into the church, there's a fear that's put inside of you. And that fear didn't come from the one who created us for a wonderful life. Yes, we have hard lessons in this life sometimes, but the man-made, inflicted, dysfunctional, shameful, denial things come from him. And when we have families who are dysfunctional, families who are not healed, families who are at a point where they see their mortality and they want to throw off their fear onto their children. And the children, oftentimes, their minds get closed in even more, shackled and closed in this thing called religion. And now they're in the outside world, but they have blinders on because everything comes through filtered in a filtered manner through what they've learned in church, coming from individuals who are not healed and toxic. It's a wonder that many of us escape this hierarchy. It's a wonder that many of us go on to live, I'm not going to say normal lives, but a healthy life. But very few of us don't get out of it. Many of us still have these things in our head, even though we go into adulthood. And really, the church is what put it on us. This is a place where you are supposed to be touched in a very special way. But many of us find ourselves touched in a very inappropriate way. And whenever we want to cry out in our own way to let our parents or let the older folks know what is going on, because we're children, we're afraid, we don't know. We don't know how to really come out and talk about these things. Many of us weren't taught about inappropriate touching. And the reason why many of us weren't taught about inappropriate touching is because the adults that should be telling us about this, they're the ones doing it. So we don't know. We're made as children to feel as though we don't count. That this is what God said. And really and truly, lots of times, this is what they say. I don't know if you can hear me well. How's the sound? Let me know if it's clear enough. Okay, let me take up my headphones and see if I can hear myself. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we got a problem here. Okay, I think it's gonna be a little better now. Did the same thing last night. I gotta switch those mics. But anyway, it's a generational curse that didn't come from our Creator. Our Creator didn't put us here to live this way. Our Creator didn't put us here. This is a school where we're supposed to learn lessons, not to have toxicities inflicted on us. Master Glam, there's some things you wanted to share, and we began to talk about these things on a previous show, possibly about 2 weeks ago. And this is something that always seems to continue to go on. I'm going to share something, and I'm going to shut up after this, and I'll let you take over the floor. But on my bus many years ago, as a driver, you run into many people, you talk to many people who, after a while, you're that person who's there, and they begin to open up to you. And when they open up to you, since you're that person who really is a captive audience, but you get to know them and you open up to them also. There was a young lady who told me that now she had to be about in her middle 20s, late 20s. But she told me how when she was much younger, she was raised in the church. It was her grandfather's church. And her mother happened to be addicted to crack cocaine. So she didn't understand the dynamics of the father's relationship to the mother. But what she told me is that she could only guess. And this was the blood grandfather and her mother. This was all blood family. But after a time, when that little girl got to be about 7 or 8, the mother would bring her over to the grandfather's house because he was a pastor and he was going to preach later on that Sunday, which they were always over there early. So later on meant 11 o'clock, but sometimes 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, they might spend the night. She'd wake up, they'd have a little breakfast, and they had a ritual that they did. And they wouldn't call it a ritual per se, but the bottom line was that that young girl was in that bedroom. The mother was sitting on the side of the bed. The grandfather, who was a pastor, began to disrobe and touch the granddaughter, made the granddaughter do things, had full intercourse with the granddaughter. Then they quickly put on her church clothes without washing her up. I mean, why do that and say you're going to wash somebody? I mean, the whole thing was nasty, right? And the mother was right there. The grandfather would give her money so she can go off and smoke her crack. And they would go to church, and the granddaughter was there, sitting in the front row, while the pastor preached a fiery sermon that had everybody going off in the spirit. And she looked at the pastor, her grandfather, and couldn't understand how could he do something so painful, and she knew it was wrong, but it was being done. You got to understand, when children are young, they know certain things, but when certain things are done, they'll shut down or either get very verbal or act out about it. She was one to shut down. And the one thing that made her cry when she told the story, and she told me the story so many times that it was like she was trying to get it out of her system, that as he stood up in front of the church, he'd make her read scripture with a little microphone so he can bounce off of that and preach. And she said, as she held the mic to read off the scripture, and everybody was, oh, she's such an adorable little girl. She's so sweet. She's so nice. She's going to be a champion and a warrior for the Lord one day. His ejaculate, I hate to say it this way, but we got to talk about it, was dripping down the inside of her leg from what he did earlier that morning. Disgusting? Of course. Inappropriate to talk about? No. Because when we don't talk about things and don't point these things out, they operate in our silence. They operate in our fear of speaking out. And they will brazenly continue to do it as they do it to this day, because I swear I can bet my bottom dollar this stuff is going on right now. That was many years ago, and her mind, she said, was really screwed up. So as an adult, in our conversation, she would go from this extremely churchified young woman who would witness to different people, and then the next night come on in and tell me how many men she slept with. I always showed her love, but I knew why she was the way she was. And we got to go dig deep and unearth these things that happened to us, if it happened to us, and find somebody that we can talk to about it and get rid of something that is not our fault. It's not your fault when these things happen. It's the fault of somebody wicked and demonic. Now, Master Glam, I'm going to shut up right now, and I'm going to have you come on in. And I'm so happy you're here to share your experiences. Talk to me. Let me hear the sound and make sure that we can hear you.
Yes, I'm here.
Yes, I can hear
What's the
you.
sound, everybody?
How are you tonight?
Hopefully this. I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Could be better, will be better. Always reaching for better, but I'm doing great.
Yes.
Um, I mean, what you just spoke about is like it was really touching to me, and I'm pretty sure to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of these things, like these things actually happen. And the crazy thing about it is that a lot of us that are listening to this show right now, each and every one of us, even if you're listening 5 years from now, 5 weeks from now, you, the person that's listening to this, probably knows someone that was molested by, maybe not in church, but someone that was in the church, someone that was held in high regard, a deacon or somebody's uncle, somebody's granddaddy at the church. And the reason why we're just saying the church is because these are just regular everyday people. These are regular everyday people, and like Tracy J said in the chat a few days ago, church is kind of sometimes like it's like a country club. It's a country club for these special people, these people that think that they're special, um, because they've got King Jesus as their savior, and really they're just everyday people, just like me and you. And I can kind of get where they get these principles and things like that, but certain things you can't look past. There's certain things that, if you're going to be teaching and you're going to be leading, you shouldn't be doing certain things. And that's disgusting to hear that that happened to a young woman. And these kind of things go on all the time. And I just want people to know that today we're just speaking truth. And truth is what you can see, something that is undeniable, much like nature. So, sex is like nature. Just like a lot of these perverts, these predators will tell you that, the things that they do to these little girls and little boys is, natural. That this is something that they're supposed to do, something that they're supposed to experience or that they're going to experience. But yeah, it's all nature, and nature is the truth. And I really want for young people who are, in their late teens, early 20s to listen to this. This message is really to them because they're the generation that's really going to change things. This definitely could be helpful to some elders, but a lot of our elders are just old and stuck in their ways, and we didn't get anywhere with a lot of them. There were a lot of them that definitely did some major stuff to open doors for, melanated people, but a lot of our elders are lost. They're lost in religion, they're lost in the system, and you know, yeah, you do with the message, what you want. But I'm just so happy to be a part of the collective and this consciousness. And the LANCESCURV family. I love you guys so much. And people might think, oh, that this is some kind of cult or something, because I see them when they come in the chat, and the crazy stuff that they say. But most of the time they just come in and they listen to like a little bit of it, and then they say something slick in the chat, and then they leave. But they really didn't, get the meat and potatoes of the message.
Right.
But today I really want to speak truth. I want to speak truth. I want to speak about nature. We're going to talk about the birds and the bees. The birds and the bees that parents are supposed to be teaching their children. People in the church are supposed to be teaching their children so that they are knowledgeable in certain things. And like I said, Lance literally touched on so many things today, just now, earlier in the show before, about what I've been thinking about, what I knew that I was going to speak about today. And it's because we're all connected. All of us are connected. That's just like, way back in the days, you used to be able to think about someone, and, that person might just call you, because we're spiritually connected. That's what spirit is. That's what they try to tell you is this hoodoo and voodoo and evil stuff. It's nature that they're telling you is evil, but that's a whole nother story. Um, but we're going to talk about the birds and the bees and why it is so important for us to speak to the youth about sex. We parents need to stop pussyfooting around and not holding themselves responsible for a lot of the things that happen with the children, a lot of the things that are happening with the children today, and especially these young parents that are, you know, of this generation, that are growing these young children of Generation Z and whatever, because a lot of these kids are out of control, like the things that they're doing. But we need to be talking to our kids about sex and not letting them learn on their own. And if you don't talk to your kids about sex, they're going to learn about it from somewhere, you know. And the school usually does teach them about sex, but I mean, what they're learning, it can't prepare them for the real world. Nothing. Isn't that funny that we go to school and they're supposed to be teaching us, but a lot of the stuff that they're teaching us, we don't learn from it. It's not stuff that we use in everyday life, because when they teach you about sex education, they, teach you depending on, what kind of education your school gave you. But, I remember my sex education, and it wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. I didn't learn enough. And, a lot of times kids are in middle school, high school, whatever, and, they're passing notes to each other. They already know about sex. They already know about these things. And, it's like you guys are like sleeping under a rock. And then when our kids say these things, or you know, do these certain actions, and we see them and we're like, where did you learn that from? Like, where did you get this from? Like, kids are so, they're like sponges. They absorb everything. I remember when I was younger, I grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s, and I was around when computers like had just came out. Like, I was like about probably like 10 years old when computers, like, well, not computers just came out, but like when everybody was getting PCs, like in the year like 1990 and 2000, people were just now getting computers. And, we had to get stuff like pop-up blockers and stuff. We had to have AOL discs that you would get from Walmart when you're at the line at the checkout, and you would put the disc in to the computer and to the CD-ROM when you got home, and you had to, activate the dial-up, and you had to do all this stuff. And
Which
when I
about that?
was, I know a lot about that. But we had to do all this stuff to get access to the internet. And while I'm getting to the internet, my parents, they had just bought themselves a home in the year 2000. We finally bought us a compact computer that it was kind of giving that look of the Mac computer, where it was like colors, they were like different jewel tones. And I think we got the purple one. But yeah, um, I was on the internet, and like I said, you had to get pop-up blockers and virus. Like, you had to do stuff that kids these days don't know about. Like, you guys don't know about that stuff. And long story short, like, while I was on the computer, I would see pop-ups of like porn and stuff. Um, so yeah, I was exposed to like these pictures and stuff, and it led me to, you know, like click on them and go to these porn sites, and I would like watch these things. And my parents would have never thought. They probably still to this day, a lot of this stuff that I'm talking about right now, they don't know some of this stuff happened. They have no clue, because sometimes parents are oblivious to certain things. And it's not because they're bad parents. My parents were great parents. They were on me like white on rice, which I'll talk about further in on tonight, this evening. But yeah, kids get into things and they learn things, and you just can't leave them out there to the wolves to learn, on their own, or with other people. You should be the first one to teach your kids, about sex. But and not only should they know for themselves, but I mean, it'll prevent them from actually being over sexualized. It'll help them with that teenage drama, that heartache, when they start having sex with this young boy, and, they think that they're in love, and, he's not even ready to be a dad. He just, started growing a mustache, and or some of them don't even have mustaches, but now they're a dad. And it's like, that wouldn't be the best scenario that you would want for your child. You would want your child to, live their life, experience certain things, be prepared, a little bit more financially stable. You're not always going to be ready for a child. When they come, they come. But the more prepared that you can be, better situated you can be, I would think that that's what you would want for your child. So teaching your kids about sex, and not assuming that they're not going to do it and that they're not going to talk about it is crazy. And honestly, my father, I don't remember, I forgot how old I think I was. I think I was like 19 or 20. And that was the first time that my dad he talked to me like about sex. I mean, he taught the first time he actually talked to me about it, I was probably like 10, and he was like, just all he told me was like, you shouldn't have, sex. That's what he's like, you shouldn't do these kind of things, and that you should save yourself for marriage. And when, he's gonna get me a ring, my parents are gonna get me a promise ring and stuff like that, and I would have to save myself. And it's like telling your kids that isn't enough because nature, sex, it calls to them at a certain age, especially when they're going to be starting to be introduced to, you know, maybe not pop ups like I was, but they're going to be exposed to certain things. I go on Facebook now these days and I type in something. I'm looking like for news articles, things that happen and stuff like that. And I see things that I didn't look for, like porn, you know?
That's right. That's right.
My kids are here, guys, so they're going to be coming in and out and stuff like that.
Well,
Hold on.
it's okay. It's okay. It adds to the whole ambience and surround sound. Listen, you're a wonderful mother and you have your children and they're gonna come. So that's okay.
Yes. All right.
It's okay.
But
Let me just interject one thing in what you said that parents, many parents, the overwhelming amount of parents, for some reason, they can't go all the way in telling them. It doesn't have to be graphic, it doesn't have to be lewd, but so much is missing when they speak about sexuality to their children. They say, like they said to you, keep yourself for marriage, don't do it. Now all of a sudden it becomes something forbidden that you have to wait to be married for, but you're feeling these urges and you seeing these things that make you wonder. It's like, wow, it doesn't mean you're bad, but this thing calls you. And then now it happened even before we had the internet. Back in my day, when I was much younger, there was nothing but magazines. It still
mhm,
called me. You know what I mean?
mhm,
A very powerful thing. And then they don't explain how you have feelings. And you got to understand these feelings because when you first get involved, if you get involved in young teens or whatever, teens, all in there, it's different for everybody else. What's the first thing that one would say when they experience an orgasm? Oh my God, I love you. I love you. You don't
mhm,
know this thing feels so good, and you can't differentiate. So while saying try to avoid certain things, they should also say, hey, this is what you're going to feel, right? This
mhm.
is what you try to avoid, but this is how it works. It's a very, very powerful thing. And if
Yes.
you indulge in it, your life will never be the same as far as what you see. It's there, it's going to happen, but you try to have some restraint and don't go crazy with this thing. Try not to do it at all. Yeah, we'll try. It's hard, but understand there's other things that are involved with it, not just, they don't even tell you how it works physically.
Mhm,
But what about the
mhm.
implications? What about the mental and emotional implications? Not told in a way to scare you, but to inform you and to direct you that when you come to that point in the road of life and you get to that junction point and you see the signs, you say, hey, I know what they told me, but this is how I'm going to handle it. But they equip me with the right knowledge. I can't tell you where to go and what not to do. You're going to do what you do. But if you do, this is what the deal is. And have dialogue about that. And you'll understand better and make better decisions sometime. But it's still no matter what. For most people, they will be struggling with this thing if it's not right for the rest of their lives. I thought when I saw somebody like a teacher in their 30s, I'm like, they ain't think about no sex. I saw people in their 40s and 50s and 60s. I'm 60 years old soon, and it's not like, I don't do the do it myself. That's just the way it is. It never leaves you. If you're healthy, you need to know how to handle yourself on all the other levels aside from what's being pushed in the media through advertisements and this open stuff that doesn't teach you the deeper meanings and how powerful it really is and how sacred it is and how fun it could be while being sacred. Go ahead.
Exactly,
I'm sorry.
exactly. No, I like they needed to hear that because it is something that is so sacred and it's a beautiful thing. And that's the thing
Yes.
that you have to teach the child. And even, for children who, they might grow up in a home where, their dad might not be there or their mom might not be there, their parents are not together. But you can still let your children know that, hey, you were created in love. It may have been love or lust for a couple hours or whatever, depending on your parents' story. But at the same time, it was something, it was an emotion, it was a connection that you had with a person that, created this child. You have to tell the child, how important this thing is that they're doing. Telling them that marriage, is something that's so important and, just keeping themselves pure and, it's just not enough. Don't lie to the child and say, "Oh, it's something it's not good, and you just shouldn't do it." Me being 19 and for my dad to be just not asking me like, "Hey, have you ever had sex before?" Like, it's like, are you serious? Like now, now you want to ask me this? But, I understand that, not all parents are perfect. Parents don't, do things how other parents would or how you would want them to, maybe, and also or sometimes our parents are scared to talk to us about certain things, but, you shouldn't wait till your child is almost, an adult, a young adult to be asking them, those type of things, so we have to prepare our kids so that they can be prepared and understand the energy that comes with sex, the power that comes with sex, and where this urge that they might be having comes from. The school is going to teach them, but you are your child's first parent. Kids are going to grow up. I was in middle school, you guys, and them girls, they was doing it. They was passing notes, they was talking about what they was doing, and I had even got caught passing notes. I was talking about what other people were talking about in the class, and the teacher caught my note, and I had to go to detention because she thought that it was me, and I'm like, well, it was your kids that was pulling out his thing in class, and why am I getting in trouble? So kids are doing this. They're doing this, and for a young child, when you're like 8, 7, even 5 years old, and you see some kind of like pornographic image, like some kind of naked person or whatever, it shocks you because you're like, what is that? It's like you've never seen this before. And when a child is led into that, and then they go and discover, because that's what kids do. That's what they're here for. They're here to learn. We all were children. That's why we're here. Hold on, guys. Sorry, guys, but yeah, when that's what they're here for. And a lot of times we have to learn that we have to slow down. That's what my son taught me is how to slow down. Because kids, they spend their day, they ain't got nothing to do. All they do is, if you don't give them a tablet or whatever, they all they do is lay around, and be bored. That's how I remember my childhood. Going outside, playing till I was tired. If nobody was outside, I had to find something to watch on TV. We didn't have cable, like, so sometimes I would just be bored, and kids get into things, they discover, so it's you have to be prepared for that. Don't assume that your child isn't going to see something. Don't assume that because you bring your child to church that they're not going to be exposed to certain things. Okay? Because when I first learned about masturbation, about sex and certain things, you guys, it was from people from church. It was in a church setting, things that I saw as a young girl when I was like, 8, 9, 10. Because like I said, I've been going to church all my life, up until I was an adult. So like when I tell you guys I saw a lot of things, I saw a lot of things. You know, I literally, Haitian people have this thing, or I don't know how they do it now, but before and back in the day, they had these things where they would just call them like reunions. They would call it reunion, and they would go to people's house, and instead of having church at the church, they would go to people's house and they would like pray for the person. And they would just basically have church service at church. I mean, at the person's home. And there was this
Yes.
one occasion. Is everything okay? Okay, I think everything was okay. I'm gonna be checking in the
It's
chat
kind
if you
of,
guys are.
yeah. Maybe move to a different spot, or just not far away, but just move around. It was a lot clearer before, but sometimes it sounds, it sounds like a robot sometimes. There's a certain sound that happens, and you didn't blank out completely, but you're still here, but it's just that little bit of sound. But go ahead.
Is this better?
Much better so far.
Okay. So we're gonna keep it like this. I took off my Bluetooth headset. So
Oh,
a lot of
that's it. Yeah.
yeah. A lot of the times, we think that, because our kids are at church and stuff, they're not exposed to, certain things. But, while we were having these little reunions and stuff, and we were having church at people's homes, there was this one occasion where, just first of all, this is not the first time that, the younger kids get together and, they hang out and do things. That's usually what they do. The kids go and do things and probably go in the den or somebody's backyard or somebody's room. And then the adults get together and the adults really have church. So this one evening, some of the kids were kind of separate, and there was one young lady and this one young boy. They were together and they were cousins. um and they were together, and they were in a bedroom. And me and some of the other kids were just, like I said, we're hanging out and just doing kid stuff in the other room. And the parents, the elders, were sometimes they do this thing where they go around and they pray in each of the rooms to like bless the home and stuff like that. And so they happened to go in this one room where the young lady and the young boy were the cousins. They happened to go in there, and when the lady opened the door, she was like shouting. She was like, "Hallelujah!" And she opened the door. You guys, the cousins were under the bed sheets having sex.
What?
They
Wait
were
now. These are two boys?
Nope. It was a girl. It was a female and
Okay.
a boy. A
Okay.
male. They both were having sex. They were cousins, and they were blood cousins, and they were
And
having.
how old were they?
They were probably like in their teens, their early teens, earlier to mid teens. Definitely not older than like
Wow.
16. They weren't older than 16, but yeah, this happened a while ago, you guys, like in the early 2000s. So I'm telling my
Hmm.
age, but I'm still young. But they so just imagine, like, all the elders, not everybody seen, but the ones who were at the front door, they saw, because the lights were on, like you could not miss it. You could not. And some of the kids also, like, because when we heard the hallelujah and stuff, we knew that they were coming and stuff. So some of the kids were already like, because they, like I said, they're going from room to room and blessing the home. So some of the kids had already seen the adults, the doors open, and they just opened this one door, and the lady's like, "Holla!" And she just stopped, and
Right.
and
It's
the
not funny,
adults
but
at the front door were just like. And honestly, you guys, this happened so long ago that I don't even really remember what happened to them. But I vividly, I can see this right now. That's something that you'll never forget. That's something that you'll never forget. And I wasn't too young. I wasn't in my teens, but I was probably like about 10, 11, maybe 12 years old. So I vividly remember this. And you guys, this girl who was having sex with her cousin, she was a close friend of mine. And anybody who goes to church, even if you're in high school, you know that, people have their little cliques and stuff like that. So there were little cliques at church. And in this little clique, this girl, the girl who got caught having sex with her cousin, she was kind of like she was one of the older girls. And I hung out with her. And, there was another girl who I was really close to as well. Like, their fathers were like deacons in the church. And I think my father became a deacon later on too. But this girl, the girl who got caught having sex with her cousin, um, even before that happened, like she exposed me to certain things that I had never been exposed to in my life.
Right.
Like masturbating, she's the one that exposed me to that. And I'm a kid at this point. Like, I'm not, I
It's a whole new world.
this girl explained to me how she would go in the shower and she would like spread her legs open and like let the water run
What a
down
pig.
in the tub, and that's how like she would masturbate. Like, so just
Right.
imagine you as a 9 or a 10, 11-year-old child, and somebody is exposing you to this.
See,
Can
I
you
didn't
imagine?
was talking to you like that. I thought you were like a little older, but she was really that you were really that young hearing this, and it's like,
Yes, Lance. I was not even 13. This, and
right,
this thing went on for years. Because like I said, a lot of times parents do not know some of the things that's going on with their kids. And so these things that I'm seeing, like I knew these people since I was a little girl. Like I knew them since I was in my mother's womb. Like some of them, like my mother, one of them, the girl who was sleeping with her cousin, her brother was born 2 days before me. We were born at the same hospital. When my mom was, walking in her being wheeled in to the maternity ward, the lady she was giving birth, in the room, and my mom was
right,
passing by. Like, so I know these people. I grew up with them. I grew up in church. So when I tell you I've seen a lot, I've seen a lot. And this girl, the deacon's daughter, she exposed me and my other friend, because we were younger than her. So,
right,
I'm not blaming everything on her, but as a young child who is like only 8 or 9 years old, you are very impressionable. Kids, like I said, certain things happen and kids are like, whoa, like, I don't think I'm supposed to see this. I don't think I'm supposed to do this. I don't think I'm supposed to hear this. But not every child will have the ability to speak up and say like, oh, do you know that this is happening? And a lot of times some kids do speak up, and we have to talk about this in the Black community. Some parents don't listen when their kids speak up. They don't listen, and they don't believe them, because I'm pretty sure if I would have told, like how I felt back then was, if I would have told my parents this stuff, they probably wouldn't have believed me. They probably wouldn't have believed that this stuff was going on, not her.
right,
I mean, maybe after they seen what they seen, but a lot of these, basically what I'm saying, that even while we were in church, you guys, a lot of things were going on. A lot of sexual things were going on with children. And like I said, being exposed to those kind of things at 8 and 9 years old, it opens your mind to a whole nother world. And then you as a child go seek certain things and to please yourself. And you're only a child, and you're getting all these ideas and things. Just, you can only imagine like what it does to a child. And your brain isn't fully developed yet. You don't even know what is going on. You don't know what's going on, and why you're feeling this, and whatever. And it's just, I'm just so surprised that some of our parents don't, you know really communicate with their children the way that they should, or they think
right,
that they're in school, and that, or they think that they're in school, school as well. They think that they're in church and school, and that everything's going to be okay. But if we, like I said, if we are more transparent with our children, we can prevent a lot of things that are happening, because these young girls, they're going to end up getting pregnant. They're going to have unwanted children, unwanted pregnancies. This is a lot of times where single pregnant mothers come from. It doesn't only just come from outside people. It comes from women in the church too. And just like we were talking about yesterday, that's why a lot of these women, some of them are
bring in
scandalous.
and out.
Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
I said,
It was kind of buffering.
oh, okay. But I said, this is why a lot of times these women are scandalous when they're in churches, because some of the things that they're being told, oh, you shouldn't do this, you can't do this, and this is a sin and whatever, you know, they really want to do
Right.
these things. They have these urges. So, once they get their teeth sinked in or locked into, one of the church members, you know, they're head over heels. And Deacon Joseph or whoever, he's gonna knock you down. He might knock you down, and that doesn't mean that he wants you. And that's where a lot of times some confusion comes from, especially as a young girl or a young boy. When you're being intimate with someone, you might start having these feelings that you love this person,
Yes.
or that it's this, and it's really not this. I my first year of high school, like one of my classmates in the choir corps class, she was pregnant, and we just started high school. Like when I went to high school, I saw so many pregnant girls. It was crazy. I had never seen something like that before in my life. And like I told you, when I was a little younger, I went to a private school. I went to a private Christian school, and I was the only Black
Right.
girl. So I didn't see
Wow.
pregnant girls around school. And then when I went to middle school, it's kind of mixed. But when I went to high school, it was in a predominantly Black area. And I see these girls and they're pregnant, and I'm like, whoa, these kids are real grown. I'm a freshman. I'm walking around, I'm like, these kids are really grown. This is high school, you know?
Right.
So it's we have to talk about it because it's natural. They're going to do it. They're doing it already. But if we can prevent the unwanted children, the unwanted pregnancies, prevent the single mothers, not like single mothers are terrible. I'm a single mom by choice. All of it really is by choice, because we have a choice when we do whatever we do, and then we have a choice to leave that structure. And sometimes we're forced to leave that structure. And even though it of course is good for a child to have a two-parent household, sometimes some parents shouldn't be parenting together. They can't. And we all know that that's a fact. Some parents cannot parent together. So if we can prevent that stuff by just talking to our children, why can't we do that for them? Because we all
Right.
attract sexual energy. It's something that is natural. And even the quietest church mouse can be having sex. I was like 10 years old, and because I was exposed to all those things,
Mm-hmm.
um it led to me going on, like I said, porn sites, and then going to chat rooms. There was one time I remember I was on a chat room acting like I was a grown woman talking to a grown man. And my uncle came in the room, Lance, and was like, "What are you doing?" Because like he
Right.
could hear, he probably heard me like lowering my voice and trying to be grown. And
Right. Right.
I was like hiding underneath this table, and I was just on the phone. And he was like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
I was
Right. Right.
just like, "I don't know." I just quickly hung up the phone, like I'm not doing anything. But here I am, like 10 years old, and I'm acting like I'm a grown woman on the chat line. And it's like a lot of the things that we think that kids are not going to do, they're going to do them.
Right.
They're going to be exposed to them. And if we can help our children, if we can help them now while they're young, this is the time that we should be talking to them about sex. This is what's going to help our community to be better. This is what's going to help our community to be stronger. When we speak to our children about the truth, when we speak to them about nature, when our children are actually educated in sex, in love, in these different energies. Not it's not us, going to a certain group or going to a certain so-called country club and acting like we're better than people and condemning this and condemning that. Like that's not what we're here for. That was not our mission.
Right.
That was not our mission, to break people down. You know, everything that we if it's not happening in nature, if it's not constantly happening in nature, because nature can do some wild things. It's nature. Some wild things reproduce within nature. So that's why we have some people who are born with, both genitalias, male and female genitalia, because that's just, that's the wild card. That's the joker that just, happened to come out at that time. But it doesn't mean that we all have to, follow behind, certain things that are put out there to us. Because if we all said that, we were gay or that we were lesbians, or, following this stuff that really is being pushed on our kids, being pushed on them in tablets, on YouTube Kids, being pushed on them in TV shows, even pushed on them in dolls, pushing sexuality and gender at them when they don't know what sex is, but they're pushing this stuff on your kids, and they're doing it to them at a younger age. This is what they're doing. And, we can sit here and talk about, oh, this is a conspiracy theory, and this is this and this. And no, you need to wake up. You need to wake up and start to notice how they're going after your children. They're coming for your children. I had to check my son in Dollar Tree one day when he told me that I don't even remember what it was, but he picked something up and it was like some kind of girl item. And he was like, Mommy, when I turn into a girl, I'm going to get this. And I said, you will never turn into a girl. And I said I said it with great authority. I looked very serious. I told him straight up, you will never turn into a girl. You are a boy. You were born a boy, and you will always be a boy. That's and right. Here go the people in the aisle looking at you. I don't give a damn. Don't look at me while I'm talking to my son and speaking the damn truth to him. You can live in your own fucking fairy tale world and tell your kid whatever the F you want to tell them. But I'm not going to lie to my child. Just like I tell him even about the smaller things like Santa Claus not being real. I'm not going to allow my son to think that he can turn into a girl. Where did he get that mess from? Where did he get that mess from? That's why he's on tablet punishment now for about 30 days. Do whatever you got to do as a parent. All we do all day is get on social media and look at people pretend to do this and pretend to be great parents. No, you know if you're a good parent or not. And your child, when other people see your child and how your child acts, they'll find out if you're a good parent or not. There are some people who are great parents, and your child will still grow up to do whatever it is that they want to do. Because I'm pretty sure a lot of the things that I did, my parents, like they never thought that for me. And it could be the smallest thing, like even like me being pregnant at 27 and unwed. That was a big deal for my parents. So some of the things that you want for your child is not always what is going to be for them. And we have to get to reality, get to the truth, like really speak to our kids so that we can start to change our community. Because a lot of these things are really happening, and we can't just bury our head in the sand. We can't just be going to church and, praying these things away and thinking that, Jesus is going to fix it all for us. And, let's speak about nature. Like, let's speak about what we can prove about what's really real. Let's really, really teach our children about what's real. Not leaving them out there to learn certain things on their own. That's why a lot of these girls grow up, they see their nasty aunties and probably even their mama. Because I know some young people who got a nasty mama, baby mama, and they see their mom doing all these kind of things, and then they turn up to be young, hot thoughts. They're young girls, and they're pregnant. They're pregnant by some bum. And
your sound is really getting compromised. Can you get near a window? Is there like a window you can get near? Like, I'm thinking maybe it might be the signal. Or does anybody else hear it? It might be just me. It might be my internet. So anybody else, it's okay if it's just mine. I want everybody to hear what you're saying because you're really putting it down good. For those in the chat room, can you hear our sister clear enough without buffering? It could be me. I've had situations where the majority, but keep on going. Let me check because I'm gonna load it up on my phone, and it may come through clear on my phone. Then I'll know it's just me here with the equipment. But go ahead, sister.
Yes. So I commented in the chat, you guys. Well, Strawberry Spice said yes. Yes, I'm buffering because I'm not connected to Wi-Fi. So this is my natural signal and I'm right here next to a window. So let me know if you guys can hear me, better, if you guys can hear me clearly. Um, but a lot of this stuff, that's happening to our kids, it's like we bury our heads in the sand. And we already talked about the pastors and stuff like that. So Strawberry Spice says that she can hear it, and Bailey says that she hears as well, so that's great. I'm going to continue to talk, guys, and interact on the chat. Also in the chat room, and I'll be answering any questions and stuff. And this is like, we're just flowing, and I can sit here and talk to you guys for a little bit, hopefully, for another hour or so. But um i just I really just had to talk about this, because it's something that's like, really near and dear to me, and something that's personal to me. It's stuff that I experienced. And as a child, when you grow up, and as a child, when you experience these things, and then you grow up, you look back at these things, and you start doing this shadow work that they talk about. And the shadow work is really they make it seem like, all these things are just words. So this shadow work makes it seem like it's this big thing, like it's this big mystical thing, when really it's just you going back and seeing, well, when I was a young girl, I was exposed to pornography, which probably hypersexualized me. And then when I first had sex with someone, he really wasn't the person who I thought he was. And because my hormones were raging and I wasn't in my right mind, because we all know teenagers, they're not grown. They think they're grown, but they're not. I thought I was grown, but I wasn't. And I was doing grown things when I wasn't grown. And so when my feelings got crushed like a bug, I was hurt to the core. And that led, honestly, I'm being very vulnerable right now, even speaking about some of these things, because I told Lance, I can't tell all the details, like every detail. They might even flag this video if I told every detail. But like I said, you can only imagine what happens to a young child that is exposed to sex, exposed to pornography. And I didn't just see other people do stuff, like, in these little rooms, like when we would go to the rooms and stuff, they would try to get us to like kiss each other and stuff like that. Like how little kids play, this spin the bottle and stuff like that. This is just things that kids do. And, at the time we think that it's young and innocent, we're not doing anything. But when you're a little girl and somebody's trying to make you go hump their brother, it's like, wait, this is a little bit more than just kissing. Like you said, I was just going to kiss him. So now you want me to go on his stinky, pissy bed and you want me to hump him in front of everybody? Like, what's going on? Like, so this is some of the stuff that I personally was exposed to. And when I grew up, the girl who was really close to me, that I was friends with, not the one that got caught with her cousin, but another girl, um, we're gonna call her Miss Goody Two Shoes. Miss Goody Two Shoes was my close friend. And Miss Goody Two Shoes, like when we got older, I was like, hey, like, do you remember when like so and so did this? And like, and when somebody else can agree with you, like, yeah, I remember when that happened, it validates everything, because it's like, I know I'm not crazy. I know a lot of these, I know I was young. I know I was only 8, 9, or 10, but I know a lot of these things did happen when we were younger. Like, I remember this. Do you remember this? And when she can tell you that that affected her as well, when she can tell you that she was never exposed to anything sexual, but those things, that girl exposed her to masturbation and whatever else, then it validates something. Because like I said, when you're young and these things happen to you, it's like, it's just, you don't understand. And even people who are listening right now, you're not going to understand until you're a young child and some of these things happen to you. Even one of my closest friends that I went to high school with, later on, I told her about some of these things that happened to me while I was at church. And she told me, she was like, I believe you, because one of my mom's uncles when I was a little girl, he used to sit me on his lap, and I would be wearing like these dresses and stuff like that, even with pants, she said, but sometimes she would wear these dresses and he would finger her. And she was a little girl, not a teenager, a little girl. And she remembered this. When this kind of stuff happens to you, even though you're young, those specific things stick out to you. You will always remember that because it's something that changed you, something that you never seen before. Just like if you were a little kid and it's the first time you go to the fair, and you see all the lights and this big Ferris wheel, and you get your funnel cake, and you get your candy apple. Like, you never really forget that. You might not remember all the details, but you'll never forget that. So when these things happen to you sexually, and then somebody else says, yeah, I remember that, it's like, damn, I knew it wasn't just me. And like I said, I'm not blaming our parents, but what I'm really saying is that it's time for us to be a little bit, stop being like the relaxed parent that doesn't care and let their kids do anything, but be the parent that your child can talk to. Be the parent that educates your child and keeps it real with them. You can still give your child discipline by giving them love. But if your child fears you, or, if you're like, it's just certain things that your child shouldn't feel about you. And even though we all have different parenting styles, there's just certain things that, a child shouldn't have to experience or shouldn't have to feel about their parent. They shouldn't have to fear you and fear speaking to you. And then a lot of times the kids grow up and they become teenagers, and she got an attitude. She walking around the house like she grown, she doing this and doing that. Yeah, because something probably happened to her and you wasn't paying attention. And like I'm saying, I'm not bashing parents. I'm not saying every parent is like this, but we definitely know that there are some parents that don't pay attention to some of their kids. Or there are just some, and like I said, your child's gonna grow up and do whatever they want to do. Whether they want to, conform and do what you want them to do. Some children are people pleasers. They grow up to be adults who are people pleasers. Then there are some who are kids who are out of control. They don't listen to their parents and they become out of control adults. And then, it's just, we just can't say that, oh, my child would never. And you don't know that. You don't know that. You don't know what that child might do. Strawberry Spice says, I have a 23-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I try to keep a tight grip on her because it's so much that happens at early ages. It makes me a bit overprotective. Exactly. And don't feel any type of way about feeling overprotective of your child, because like I said, a lot of stuff happens to these kids. Even my mom, like, something happened where I was younger, and I don't even remember this, but I always hear her talking about this on the phone sometimes with her friends. And she talks about when I was like a young girl and some boy had like he kissed me. Like, she was like watching us play outside, and like we were like 3 years old or whatever, and the boy was like kissing me and trying to hump me. And my mama told him, like, this is what she says, that she told the little boy, she's like, get off of her. You learned that nasty stuff from your mama and you need to stop. And he, of course, went home and told his mama. And she had beef with my mama about it. But hey, like I said, we all grow up in different environments. And, some people going to do whatever about their kids and some people not. But this is the type of stuff that happens. Some people grow up in one environment and others grow up in another. But you should always try your best to protect your child if you can. I remember this one guy just had a random conversation when I was working at overnight at this convenience store. And the guy was like, oh, why do you work overnight? And I was like, because I have a young child and I don't have anyone to care for him in the daytime. And I would rather him, stay with my mom, or his father at nighttime, while I'm working. And this man had the audacity to tell me, oh, well, mommy thinks that she can control everything. Mommy, like, who, first of all, like, why are you talking to me like that? Like that's literally how he was talking to me. Like, oh, mommy thinks that she can control everything. She doesn't want anything to happen to her little
That's a
baby.
red flag.
Exactly.
That's
Lance, you don't even know what I want to say right now.
say it.
First of all, he was a black man and he had sugar in his tank for sure. And in my mind, I was just thinking, oh, did something happen to you? Did mommy not protect you and something happened to you? Right. And now you're mad? You're mad because my baby's at home sleeping with his grandma or his daddy and I'm at work now? Are you mad at that? Did something happen to you? And I don't mean to be nasty.
Bingo.
I don't mean to be nasty, but like, why would you even say something like that? Like, where does that even come from? Like, what construct are you from? Like, where do you, like, how does that even come from your mind? That's why, like, a lot of these people, like, they have, like, fucked up minds. Like, stuff happens to them. Stuff happens to them.
He was mad. He was mad hearing how there was no cracks in the armor for something to happen to your child. You see? And he was placed in a situation where something happened to him. And he's resentful to the people who are over him. And he's resentful to that person who did the thing to him. And he's envious of the protective atmosphere that you provide. That's exactly what it is. And it creates people who are screwed up in the head with certain things. Either they'll do something or they want to see something happen. Good, it happened to them because it happened to me. Yep. Everybody doesn't heal. Let me tell you something. In their version of healing, everybody doesn't heal up the same way or the right way. You ever see that stray dog that got run over, the foot got run over by a truck or a bus, and they were just out in the wild and the bone healed up crooked and they're walking crooked, and in them walking crooked, that has become normal for them. That if you to re-break that bone and set it back right, walking the way you're supposed to walk is something that's abnormal. So when they see something proper and right, they're reminded of what they didn't have and they have a resentment on you. That's exactly what it is. And I've seen it.
That's exactly what I thought when he said that to me. And of course, you know, I didn't want to be rude to him and I didn't want to say, oh, it's because he's gay. Something must have happened to him. I didn't want to be that person. But it's just like, what made you that person to be upset at me that my child is at home sleep with his grandma? Like, what's your problem? And it was just his whole tone, his whole demeanor, like him speaking to me like this, like a child, like patronizing me.
See, that's resentment. And let me tell you something. So many people are afraid to talk about it, but there's a certain resentment is resentment, but it's dished out in different ways according to who's dishing it out. And when you get a dude who's got sugar in his tank and he's resentful, it can be some of the most cutting things that they can say. And see, like you said, you're a good person. You're not to be messed with, but you didn't want to hurt his feelings or not come off a certain way. At this point in my life, I don't care about these people. You say something, and I know exactly what it is. I'm chewing you up until you walk away whimpering. I'm telling you, if I see it, I know it. I call it out. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you have to do this or you have to aspire for that, but you're going to find encounter things that in this world, you know, if things go the way they're supposed to go, I'm probably going to transition on and you'll get older, but you're going to see things more vicious. What made that kind of man to say something like this to a woman in a scathing way? Plus, on top of that, he was probably jealous that he wasn't a beautiful woman like yourself. Throw that in there too. Mm-hmm. Throw that in there too.
Mm-hmm. And it just goes to show that, like Lance said, like these type of people, like these people become predators. They could be predators. And so these are the people that, you know, like Lance said, you know, this happened to me, so I'm gonna do this to them. And it's like they literally grow up like mentally fucked. And
you took away his chance to do something by covering all the bases. So he saw no opportunity. So that's why he's gonna mess around and talk like that. Man, I'm not a guy who says what I would do if I'm this tough guy, whatever have you. But let's say it this way. I would have got all up in his ass the way that he wouldn't want me to get up in his ass. You see what I mean?
It's just he was a sick person, and it's probably I can't say that it's not his fault, because like I was going to start talking about anyway, is that there comes a certain point, even if something happens to you as a child, like even though I was exposed to pornography as a child, even though I was exposed to people showing me masturbation, making me do things, with their siblings and other people, even though I was exposed to that, at a certain point, there came a point where I had to take responsibility for the things that were happening to me, the things that I chose to do. Even though this thing might have been the root cause, this is where shadow work comes from, is when you find the root cause of what happened. So like this happened to you. And so what kind of feeling, what kind of spirit did this evoke over you to make you want to do this? What else happened to cause you to become promiscuous? What else happened to cause you to be, looking for love in all the wrong places, that came to make you become a single mother? We have to look at those things. That's where the shadow work comes from. It's all about addressing your personal issues, things that happen to you. And even certain things, like even just a couple of weeks ago, I realized that, hey, I think I probably might have some anxiety, because honestly, my son was talking to me, and like, how kids can be like, mommy, 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 mommy. And honestly, I literally felt my blood get warm. That's the first time like I've ever felt that. Like I felt my blood get warm. I felt my heart started literally beating fast. Like, and I wanted to scream, but I took like a deep breath, and like I could, like that, once that feeling came over me, I was just like, oh my God.
Right.
Like I could literally feel my heart beating, and I was like, what is that? I've never felt this way before. And I just knew that mentally, like I had to take a deep breath and just calm down, because he's just a child and he just wants to talk to me. But because of everything that I'm going through mentally, and just being overwhelmed in general with life, I was getting annoyed. I was getting very, anxious, and I was just like, just make this stop now. But I had to take a deep breath, and I realized, I was like, what is this feeling that I'm feeling? What is this feeling that I'm feeling? And a lot of times we don't even have time. We don't even have time to address our own feelings, like the way that we feel. And we don't realize that affects us as a parent. It affects us as a person when we don't have time to address our issues. We're out here chasing work, chasing money, chasing this certain lifestyle, what they tell us that we should have on TV or in the music, in the movies. We think that this is how a man should treat us, and we should get flowers. And, we're thinking about all these things constantly, each and every day. And we don't realize how stressed we really are. When people are just there's other people who are just looking for peace. You're looking for peace too, but you're looking for peace probably in the wrong place. When peace it's literally peace of understanding that I really only need something to eat today and tomorrow. Like I just need food. My family needs food for the week or for the month, or we need food in our pantry. We want to be fully stocked. We have clothes. Our home is paid for. We got our own little garden where we're self-sufficient. Like those are the things that we really should be worried about. Is being able to sustain ourselves and being able to live. But yet we worry about material things, and we don't realize how much stress comes to us searching for material things. And nobody said that we're not supposed to live a good life, because whoever you believe in, whatever God you believe in, or if you believe in the universe, whatever, we are all supposed to live a good life. But it doesn't mean that, you're supposed to be breaking your back to have material things.
Right.
Sometimes we have to rest. I see my mom approaching her 70s, and it's like the other day I saw her, like, she works for herself really. And I saw her resting, and I was like, good. Like, that's what I want for my mom, is for her to rest. Like for so long, I I haven't really seen her like just stay home the whole day, not do anything, put her feet up and watch her little YouTube videos and, you know, her little Haitian, you know, news clips from YouTube and stuff like that, you
Right.
know, or from WhatsApp. Like, we need rest, like real
Yes.
rest.
Yes.
And we
See?
can't get rest if we're constantly, you know, focused on gotta pay these bills, gotta do this. Like, guess why I just
Right.
want to live the most simple life. I just want to live a
Yes.
simple life.
Let me tell you.
I
I made up my mind a while back that I was getting off this merry-go-round. There's so many people who have told me, well, if you work 10 more years, or if you work 5 more years, no. I saw my father work up into the time when he got sick and eventually passed away. I see my mother work up into the time that she caught a stroke from the stresses that she was going through, knowing that my brother was out there on drugs and was always on drugs. But when she realized that, I realized, like, listen, you know, boom, the second stroke came, she was out of here. I am not doing it. If I got to do or deal with a little less, I'm going to have that time on the back end of my life where I'm not going to, I walked away from bills. Me and Mr. SCURV walked away from all of that. Well, we have this mortgage, and if we have to pay it to the end and I pay extra, we're going to be 70 something years. No. I don't care if I don't get this big luxury car. Luxury to me is to be able to be free, like one of the animals out in the so-called wild, get up when I want, go to sleep when I want, have my little fruits and things, and have a little money coming in. A little money. I don't need it. As long as I'm covered, I'm good. I am resting. I'm doing what I want to do. Now I'm pushing and do the things I have to do to get myself to that level, but I'm right there. And whatever comes after that, if I decide to do something online, business-wise, a little more, fine. But I'm not doing it under duress and chasing after something. I'm done. I'm off the wheel. I'm off the merry-go-round. I don't want no part of it no more. People back in America, man, if you come back, man, I got a job for you paying so-and-so and so-and-so. No, I can't do it. I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm not doing this until I transition. I don't know when I'm going to transition, but I'm not going to be walking around tired and look back and the system sucked everything up out of me and I didn't enjoy myself. Sometimes I just want to be still. I enjoy quiet days. I enjoy being still. I talk a lot, right? But there's a lot of quiet in my life, a lot of peace and tranquility and no drama. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. Right now, I'm good where I am. I think today, you know, I got my show 10 o'clock at night, which is 5 o'clock over there. I make a few recordings. I eat a nice meal. Mrs. SCURV talks. She's in the bed. She goes to bed early. And I'm up some time. But I live the way I want to live. And that's what they're not taking the sweetest time away from my life. Sorry to rant on about that. Go ahead, sister.
Oh no, because like I said, Lance, like, you know, this is a collective. Like, that's why literally everything that I'm talking about today, you guys already really touched on it. Even when I don't know if that was Brother Kwame or Kwame, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but gang stalking violence. Even when he was talking about how, you know, the possibility of people, you know, reincarnating into this earth, and because of their karma, you know, they might live this life where they live a very brutal life. You know, they might have
Yeah.
been raped or, you know, and it's like, I'm not saying that this happened. That's not what we're saying, but it's just a question because it's like, why is it that some of these things do happen to some people? You know, it's crazy. Like there was a
Yeah.
young white girl that got stabbed, like I think it was maybe last year, but I just
Mm.
was reading about it. She got stabbed 100 and I think 14 times by some boy that she went to school with. Like he lived in her neighborhood and he lured her to the woods around like 1 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and he killed her. He stabbed her 100 and like 14 or 16 times. Like these people are fucking sick.
Yes.
There are people that are literally out here and they're mentally sick. And like this boy, like just looking at him, like some of the things that people even had to say about him, it's like, how do people not notice this type of stuff about people, you know? And it's like, what happened to this child that he became this monster? Like, what happened to you that you became such like this monster? Like, you know,
Mm.
we just have to really be there for our children. And you know, the more that we can keep our families, our Black families, like actual families, you know, the better it is. I'm not telling anyone to stay
Yeah.
in toxic relationships, but you know, our children need their fathers. They need their mothers. You know, they try to joke around these days. You know, they made some kind of cartoon photo of like the Rugrats and how Rugrats grew up, and how dare they? The Black girl, Susie, they made her a single mom, and Chucky and Angelica and Tommy all had families, but Susie was a single Black mom. Like, what the fuck is that? Like, that's what they think about us. But guess
Yeah.
what? Like the Black magic that we have, you know, we made our own we made our own photos, our own drawings, and our own Susie with her doctor husband. Don't play. Don't play. But that's what they want for us. And a lot of us, we really don't
That's
see.
right.
And if we could see it, if we can start catching it, so we can start changing the way that we're living, changing our vibration. I know things happen, you know, I know things happen with, you know, some of the choices that we make, but if we can help ourselves and notice some of the things that's going on within our community and turn things around, it'll be better
Yeah.
for our children, for the next generations. They won't have to suffer so much. They won't have to suffer so much. That's why a lot of these
We
kids
have
are
to have this.
oh.
Yeah, we have to keep the standards. See, just because there's a line in the middle of the road, a double yellow line, doesn't mean you can't go over it. If there's a truck on a single lane road, a double lane, but one going one way and going the other way, there's a truck parked there, you're allowed to look over safely and go on the other side of the road to get your car past that truck. It doesn't mean the standard is not the double yellow line. That is the standard. So we need in the Black community, especially, to have our standards, right? It doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you if you happen to, because of circumstances, find yourself as a single mother, because there's a lot of people out here who have different circumstances with them. A husband may have died, or, you know, bad choice, or something a little premature. It doesn't mean you're a bad person, but we have to maintain a certain set of standards where, okay, we may have fallen off the mark this time, but the standard is still there that I'm going to still aspire to. I may have fallen on my knees in my pursuit of life and not known there's a pothole there, and it was dark and I slipped and I fell. And if I knew then what I know now, it wouldn't have happened. So the standard we have to know. Too many times what I see in our community, we lower the standard to accommodate a situation to not make the person feel bad. No, the standard is not there to make you feel bad. It's just a mark to keep guiding you. So even, and I use the example when you said, oh, I'm a single mother, but you're a successful, smart single mother. See, it's all single mothers aren't the same. All men, Black men who end up in prison, it's not the same. There are guys there who are innocent. There are guys there that came home and saw their wife with another man in the bed, killed him, and may have gotten some charges. We can't assess. I won't say judge. Judging is when we don't know, but we can't assess every situation the same exact way. But no matter where we fell amongst in our lives that may have been off the mark, it's not there to whip us with the standard. It's there to guide us. And just like we were saying earlier, how our parents and lots of parents don't speak to the child about sex, and they give them this thing, well, don't do it and wait until marriage. But listen, when you have they forgotten what it's like to be a teenager and you are aroused and that intoxicated thing hits you in a mere touch of another, and there's nothing stopping that. I mean, even the so-called animals who may not have our brain capacity to think, they out there getting their thing. How do you end up? This is a very powerful force. You have to know how to guide it. But the standards can't be compromised. And this is the thing. Just like when you were talking to your son and, you know, you had to correct him, right? No, you ain't going to become no girl. And everybody else is looking at you funny. The ones looking at you funny have compromised their standards. And this is why they have worn us, most of us down out here, to accept anything. And see, we need to know, hey, this is wrong. This is right. This is where the line, the double yellow line is. This is where the standard is. I may have fallen short a little bit, but because I knew the standard, I didn't fall off more. We're not going to be perfect in this lifetime, but us as a community to get back, we can't give in to this foolishness that they're putting out there that's going to mainly destroy us, accepting this foolishness. You see what I mean? I'm not accepting it. And look at me. People know what happened to me. An older woman, a cousin in her 30s. I'm 5 years old. I'm going down on her, looking at her clit, her vagina, her butthole, all this stuff. What you thinking imprinted in my mind? I was a mess when I got to the teen years and was doing things. And this was a good stretch of time. So sex for me was something else. Right? So then the whole porn thing and growing up in New York City and then church women, utilizing my skills. So I'm really jacked up in the head, but I'm not accepting that. It's just a deeper hole to come out of. But I never lived a normal life. I was a straight, perverse, freak, nasty, not a predator. No young kids. Older women, and they saw how they can. Like you said, that sexual energy on a spiritual level. And there's a lot of older women mess with young boys and young girls. A lot of women doing it too. But they get away with look because they don't in society, we don't think of things that way. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of saved and sanctified church ladies that had me come over to their house. I've told the story several times. I won't tell it again, and I loved it because I was promiscuous. I was on fire. I knew better, but I couldn't help myself. And I took on all comers and it consumed me. And you would never know. You would never know. I was a mannerable young man, but they knew. Just like you see these young girls, like you said earlier, that they're so quiet and whatever, and they out there doing anything. I was doing some nasty stuff with these women, and they loved it, and I loved it, and I didn't know I was being used like that. And at that time, I didn't care. You mess up your mind. Thank God I didn't catch ever in my life anything, and I'm still here.
Telling you. And when I tell you, like, the reason why it's, first of all, it's so important, like, to talk to the kids, like, even, like, look what you said happened to you as a 5-year-old child. Mm-hmm. Like, that these things aren't going to happen to the kids, but it can happen to them. And honestly, like, even though those things happened to me, I was doing things with myself, which, it wasn't really any much better. But you can only imagine, because I was always a shy girl growing up. I was always like the shy girl. But Lance, when I tell you, the boy next door had the hots for me. Mm-hmm. And when I tell you, my dad could see it. And I'm pretty sure anyone else, any other father who's listening, like, you can see these things. Your child may not be able to tell, but a father knows. And, I'm a kid. I don't even think that, they think anything, but, and I don't technically kind of know what's going on. But, my dad would, like, he would always tell me, like, no, you can't always hang out with this person. Like, he was just very, like, kind of specific with me, even though, like, the neighbor was, like, their family was really close to us and we were kind of like cousins. Like, he knew certain things. And then there was this one time that, somebody in the neighborhood, like, left a note for me and they were like, "Oh, I like you and I want you to be my boyfriend." And my dad found it and my dad was just like, "Who wrote this to you? You know who wrote this to you?" And I'm like, "No, I don't." Like, I didn't even have any self-confidence, like, I don't like anybody. I'm not doing anything. I haven't done anything. I didn't do anything back then. Like I said, I was doing things to myself. But if I had, like, honestly, if I had gotten a little bit of more rain, Lance, like, some of the things that I was exposed to as a child, I'm very surprised that I was not promiscuous as a teenager. Very surprised. Because the boy next door, like,
there's so many different factors involved. I'm saying there's so many different factors involved that make you, it's not like either you're promiscuous or either you're not. Like you said, you had what at normal ages, the little insecurity or maybe not super confidence, because, we go through the phases as adolescents So that may have been the thing to save us from becoming that way. But I knew the deal.
But it was for
young,
me.
I knew what was going on. I was never a predator, because it was like these were older women who were being predators of me, but I put myself in their way. I wanted it. And I was confident. Like, okay, when you think you got me, I'm gonna get you. It's right. There's different factors. It's different factors involved. So it's not a one size fits all thing. I've seen people who you would never know, and they out there raising hell. Like, whoa, I caught you out here like this for real.
Yep.
You know, you just never know, because we all have our own personalities, our own upbringings, our own set of wiring. We're wired a certain way. You know, sometimes the wiring don't work until 2 years down the line, and something lights us up a certain way and we all fire. I understand that, you know. I understand that.
Yeah, I mean, like the boy next door, like if I like, just like you said, honestly, if I probably would have had that confidence, and the crazy thing about it is that even though I didn't have that self-confidence, like guys would approach me, and it was weird growing up, because sometimes grown men would approach me when I was younger. And I just, for some reason, thank God, I just never like went down that path. I guess it was like you said, that was my protection, because I know, like, God only knows, like there were times where, like, the next door neighbor, like, he knew my daddy wasn't there, and he came, and I opened up the door and I talked to him, but I didn't let him in, but I
Right.
could have. And these are the situations that our kids are going to be in, and it's going to be up to them to choose what they're going to do and what they're not going to do. And it doesn't say that you're a bad parent, if your child does something that you wouldn't have wanted them to do, but we still have to, talk to them and let them know that they have choices. Because like those guys that, some of them that used to follow me home from the bus stop, like grown 18-year-olds, and I was only like 13 at the time. And like grown boys used to follow me sometimes from the bus stop. We lived in the hood at the time, but eventually my parents left that neighborhood just because it wasn't safe. Like they just knew it wasn't safe. This like wasn't an environment that they wanted for their children. There was even times where there was a boy across the street came inside our patio and was like stealing my dad's lawn stuff, and we were like home at the time.
What?
So yeah, my dad was like, yeah, we're leaving this neighborhood, and I really could have been exposed to a lot of things. And honestly, I was, certain people have their own vices and stuff like that, but sexually, I could have been that. And honestly, it kind of did happen for me as I started to get older, because all of those things that I was introduced to, and then as you grow up and you start to blossom a little bit, you start to look pretty, you got your job, you can do things, get your hair done and stuff, you're wearing the clothes that you like, you attract different attention, you present yourself how you want to. And a lot of these things would happen to me, and I was young, and I would get in these relationships. And there was like, for some reason, I was always attracted to like older guys. So there was one guy who was like, I was 19 and he was 29 when I started dating him. And I was head over heels for him. We were really a great couple, a great match. But I was so young at the time. And I remember one time he asked me, like, all serious, like, oh, if I asked you to marry me, what would you say? And I was just like, and I was just like, at the time, the way that my parents taught me is, oh, you need to go to school, you need to, get your degree, and then you can start dating and da. So in my mind, even though I was dating him and already fully involved with him, I was like, well, I mean, I would say yes, but not now, And he's already older. He's 29. He already got, kids. So in his mind, he was like, oh, okay, well, she's not that serious. And he went off to do what men do, find him somebody who is, serious, even though he might play with me when he wants to. But, he actually liked me and, saw something in me that he probably wanted to, be with me long term. But when he found out that, hey, she might not be, on the same page that I'm on, he went to go find something else. And then when I found out, because he wasn't man enough to tell me, I was heartbroken. I was like
Wow.
heartbroken. I was like shattered. And it was to a point where, like, literally for almost 2 weeks, I was depressed and I didn't even notice that I hadn't eaten. Like, literally,
Wow.
I did not eat for 2 weeks. I sat in my room and I was just depressed, and I would just go to work and I was just existing. And as I got older, it wasn't until I started doing that shadow work that I'm talking about that I realized that I was like, wait, there was somebody that liked me. There was somebody that did treat me well. Even I don't know what would have happened, at that time if I would have said yes or whatever. But what it made me realize is like I was hurt by that situation. And then,
Mhm.
it leads to other things. And I was too young to be experiencing some of those things that I was experiencing. And I didn't mentally know how to process these things. So
Right.
when things started happening to me, Lance, like I literally, literally, as soon as I just felt like there was this energy that was wrong with me and him. And I asked him, are you seeing someone else? And he told me, he's like, yeah, I am. And I was just like, damn, that was a stab in the in the heart. Like, and it was
Wow.
quick too, quick and sharp,
Band-Aid, just
quick and sharp. And
wow.
honestly, Lance, you know what happened? It led to me, like my friend I had these little, your friends, sometimes our daughters have friends, your girls have friends. And I had a friend,
Right.
she was a little out there, she was a clubber. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm a floater. I just float in and out, but
Right.
she ended up like introducing me to this person, and I, like, because I was so emotionally just not together, this
Right.
person ended up
It's
telling
natural.
me things. Oh, you're so pretty, and da, 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 does your boyfriend know this, and da, 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 da. And then I ended up sleeping with this guy. And honestly, it really wasn't by choice, Lance, but it was because I put myself in the wrong place at the wrong time. Which,
Mm-hmm.
these young girls,
Circumstances.
some young girls are naive, and I was one of those young naive girls, because I wasn't
Mhm.
experienced. I was kind of the ugly duckling. I felt like the ugly duckling, and I started to blossom a little bit when I got older, but I wasn't exposed to certain things. So, when he was telling me all these things, and I just found out that my boyfriend was cheating on me, Lance. I
Oh, you told him
I
that
Yeah.
he knew. Oh,
Oh yeah.
he's
And
like a shark.
yes. And honestly, Lance, I slept with him. And you know what? For some reason, I vividly remember, like, when I left, like this. Well, I remember it because, like, he just opened the door for me, and like he says, "Okay, I'll call you later." But he didn't walk me to my car, and it's
What?
like, that's what I want. Is somebody? Does he
Right.
like me? And on what I was gonna say. This also wasn't by choice. It really wasn't by choice, but I just went with it, because I'm not gonna lie, I liked it after it started. But
And plus,
that, huh?
you were hurting.
Yeah, I was. And like I said, that's why I was getting to, sometimes people put themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. And, sometimes girls are naive, and it's like, what are you doing at a guy's house at nighttime and you're wearing this, these shorts, and you're looking this good? Like, what do you think he wants? Like, what do you think's going on? So yeah, he forced himself on me and started doing what he wanted to do. And then I just accepted it because, like I said, I did
Mhm.
like it. But at the time, I was not ready. I didn't really, really want to do that. But then,
Right.
in either way, when I got home, like when I got in the car, Lance, I just started crying, and I was just like, I can't even remember what I was thinking completely, but I was just crying, and I was just like, because I knew he didn't like me, and it's just like, oh my God, I just added one more person to my body count. Like, it's just like
I
so much
understand.
go on that young girls are not prepared for. And that's probably why I was crying. That's probably why I was sobbing. It's
Yeah.
because now I just added another person to my list. He doesn't really freaking like me. I don't, he didn't walk me to my car. That's not the kind of guy that I really want. But
Right.
here I am hanging out with this girl and, making these choices. And, now I'm here with this guy, and, this happened to me. So a lot of times, certain things happen to us that we don't want to happen to us, but hey, they happen because certain choices that we make. And so, you know, as I'm getting older and I'm doing all this shadow work, like, because, like, you know, believe it or not, at that time when I was crying, you know, I was crying because I was just like, you know, I didn't want to add this person onto my list. And I really wanted to be with the other person, you know, that I was, you know, my ex-boyfriend. You know, that's really why I was crying at that time. But it's when it hit me when I was older, is that
Mm-hmm.
you were really crying because of what happened. That's not who you wanted for. That's not what you wanted for yourself. You
Right.
really didn't want to sleep with him. You know, he wasn't your type. Like he didn't even care about you. Like that's really why you were crying. And I had to address these things as I got older, like literally just a few months, a couple years ago. I had to start addressing these things. Like, why did I do this? This led me to do this. And because the first person who I slept with, they really didn't they didn't care for me like I really thought that they did. They did what my dad told me that guys would do, is what they would sleep with you, get what they want, and leave. And that's what he did to me. And with each person who I dated, I tried to, it was like I was making up for something. And I was just like, I'm going to make this person want me. I'm going to make this person, you know, be with me. He's going to be my boyfriend. This is going to be my, you know, I'm going to be his girlfriend. This is going to be long term. And it's like, when they fuck you and leave,
Mm-hmm.
pump and dump, like you said, like it's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of us can't process that shit. So it's like when
It's
that happens to us, it's just like it's literally like some of us think to ourselves, well, what's wrong with me?
right. And you're
What's
not
wrong
supposed
with me?
to internalize that because these guys go out with this in their mind. This is their mission. And I know a lot of guys who I know personally, that is what they're all about. Now, like as you reveal these things and say these things, I have to take my hat off to you because there are a lot of young ladies who are going to listen to what you're saying and they're in that place that you were in. But when they get older, usually they want to close it off and act like they've never been through things. This is very important why we have to have these types of conversations because most people are not going to open up. Most people are just going to sit right there and just go with the flow and just play pretend while they can't see you're healing up completely. You still have things that you have to process, I'm quite sure, in life. And there will be things in the future that we may have to go through, whether it's in this type of category of what we're conversing about or other categories. But look, I got things I'm processing from way back in the early 80s. Backed up. Look, you weren't born then, and I'm still processing this stuff.
It
You see what
goes
I mean?
on forever.
Yes, yes. My paperwork is stacked up on the table, like the times before the computer. You go down to an agency and say, "Oh, well, we're back to the paperwork. We didn't get to yours yet, and yours is way down on the end of the table. There's stacks of it." I got little screwed up. Not screwed. I'm not screwed up, but I got little things that I got to deal with. That if I wasn't dealing with them, I would be screwed up because they're toxic, and it's things that I put myself in, situations I put myself in. But going back to the other thing. You have older men or men who are not so much older, depends, it's all relative, and they're done. They've been through some stuff in this life, and it's like almost they're taking it out on any other woman. Men were made for a woman. Women are made for a man. You can't take it out on all women and say, you know what, it's a pump and dump. I mean, really and truly. I mean, that means it's just cut off emotionally. That means you're cut off from having some compassion. And I mean, if two people as adults decide to say, hey, we're going to go to bed, we know the proper way, but adults are going to do that. Don't go into it with that mentality. I mean, you're not even going to get anything out of it. You're just going to release some sperm and leave. I mean, that's the definition of a dog, right? So I don't understand that because I was never wired that way. I was a romantic little kid. Even though I was doing all this stuff, in my mind, I was loving these women. I'm do things that no man ever did to them before and stay with them after. You know, I'm younger, they're a little older. I'm going to cuddle them up, kiss them in the middle of the night, tell them nice things. And they loved it. But they weren't pumping me and dumping me, but they were doing the opposite emotionally. They were pumping and dumping.
Yeah.
They stuff on me and pumping my head up. But I didn't expect true love out of it. But the thing is that to do that now, we're balanced individuals. We want to be. And if you cut yourself off emotionally and just go in like I'm just, and you know this, you on top of this woman, or you got a bent over and you doing your thing, and like, this is all I want. And I'm done. And oh, baby, I'm gonna call you tomorrow night. That was so good. You don't call no more. There's something wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
As an adult, we do things younger to the foolish. I understand that. But as an adult, you're going to create imbalances for yourself. Doesn't mean like, okay, everybody's going to lie to say, I want to marry you and I want to. No, the only thing I say is be honest with your intentions. Be honest. So even if you're a pump and dumpster, there may be a woman out there who wants that too. And she's like, listen, I don't want to be bothered in a relationship. You don't want to, but I have a physical need. I'm not condoning that either. All I'm saying is that whatever you're doing, be transparent. Don't lie. Don't infer anything that this woman is going to get hurt when she realizes the truth. Let her make up her mind what it's going to be. So at the end of the day, she can't tell you that you lied. That's just the worst thing. Let her know how beautiful she is. Let her know how attractive you are to her. All this stuff, whatever. But this is the deal. I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm looking for a situationship. I'm looking for whatever. There are people out there who might go for that. That may be imbalanced, but that's what floats their boat. Just don't lie.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, I can go on and on, Lance, on and on.
I understand.
I mean, like I said, a lot of these things, like you said, that happen to you, like it really exposes you to these things, and you know, it brings you to stuff that like you're actually not prepared for, you know, as a young child, and or even a young adult. And even though, like you said, like, you know, you're not really wired to that. It's like detachment, you know, to sleep with someone and just how do you do that? Like, I even know some guys, like there was one guy, Lance, who literally told me he's had sex with like over 500 women. And I'm like, how is that possible? How is that possible? And he's like, yeah, like me and my friends, like we used to have sex with girls all the time. Like sometimes we didn't even go to class. Like we would just run trains on girls, like, and they were just giving it up. And I'm just like, I thought that I was doing something. And like, you guys are doing this. Then there was another one of my male friends who, like, he told me, like, and this, honestly, this was the one that lived next door. The next door neighbor that had the hots for me. Like, as when we got older, you know, because we always kept in touch, because like I said, our families were really close. He told me that he's like he doesn't even know how many women he slept with. He's like, he's definitely slept with like at least 50 women. And I'm just like, that is a lot.
Let me tell you something. I wish mine were that low. I wish mine were that low. And for me, it messed me up in those days in a way where after a while it was like you can't connect. And after a while, let me tell you something, you can't even feel. You're so connected to so many like soul ties. I look at those like ropes that come out to this other person, another thin rope, a rope, and there's exchange. You're connected to these people. So you got this soul tie, you got this one, you got this one, you got this one. So you're pulled in so many different ways. I feel that some people who they diagnose as bipolar has multiple soul ties that they're connected to different people. And if one person is angry, you slept with them 5 years ago, but you still have some kind of connection to them, you'll feel anger and not know where it's coming from, right? Or you feel, you know, sad or this. You have all of these different emotions flowing through you that you can't even connect to your own self. And it seems like the only way that you can get a rush of something refreshing aside from what you're wallowing in is to get another soul tie. You know what I mean? It's like burning up with gasoline on you, and you're burning up and you want to pour water on yourself, and you grab more gasoline because for a second the fire goes to the new gasoline and it's not burning you as much. It's a never-ending pit. It's an endless deep abyss that once you tumble down that way, look at it this way. And I wrote this article called "The Stickability of a Woman's Heart," and I compared this. I wrote this like about 15 years ago. It's on my site somewhere. And you ever know construction paper when you're in elementary school or kindergarten or first grade or whatever have you, and you draw something on it and you put tape around it and you put it up on the wall in the classroom, and all the other students do the same. At the end of the school year, they say, okay, take your artwork. It might be some corny looking crayon thing. You take it and you put it up on your wall at home. And then after a while, you say, I'm going to move this, going to move it here. And you put it up on the wall, you come back in that room the next day, it's on the floor. And say, how'd this thing fall down? Well, see, when you put that construction paper that had tape going around it for the first time, there was a direct connection to the wall. So it was up there firm. You took it down. All of a sudden, it's like this little lint, little fuzz, a little bit of oil gets on the tape. You put it up and you press it, it holds. But you keep doing that, removing that construction paper that's held up by that Scotch tape, clear tape, and it becomes a barrier between it. So now you try to stick it to the wall, and it really just falls immediately because you removed it so many times. And in the process of removing it, dirt and oil and lint and stuff got up on it, and it was unable. And that's the best way that I can explain it, that you keep laying up so many different people, that mechanism that allows you to become attached gets blurred because now you only have it so many times in this life to really make that thing happen strong. Because we get caught up in that person and their toxicities that gets between the tape and the wall. And now we're walking around, the people are not around, but we're walking around with these burdens on our heart, these soul ties that we're not seeing the person, but we have all these conflicting feelings. And then when it comes to the whole sex thing, it's not pure and simple as it should be. When you're with somebody and say in a perfect world, you meet that person and you get into them, they don't break your heart, and you found yourself bound together as it should be, and it's something that sticks, and you don't even know, right? And I'm going to talk a little adult now. You have some man go down on you. You don't know if what he's doing is making you feel as good as you could. Now, all of a sudden, you meet somebody else, and you're like, ooh, they know what they're doing. They made me feel better. That thing is in your mind, which is not supposed to be. When you're with somebody, I'll say it this way. The best sex in the whole world is between bumbling, fumbling novices who don't know what the hell they're doing. They just know it feels good, and they know they're having fun, and they're going through the mechanisms that draw them to each other. Because like I said, when you're young and you have a very intense sexual experience, a lot of times when we're young and we don't know, when we're hitting orgasm, oh my God, oh, I love you. Oh, I love you. But that's the way it's supposed to be. But we separate the sparks of lust from love. Like love is some corny thing that's over there. Yes, I love you. We're holding hands. But no, it's all one. And that attraction sexually is not because you never told no man, oh, I'm so turned on to you because of your knowledge of the stock market. You ain't thinking about no stock market when you're getting busy. You're feeling the person, you see them. This is the real raw deal to bond you together. But too many times, and this is what was my problem in my life, I hit them numbers from when I was probably like about 18, 19. When I was with my old girlfriend, we throwing them parties, man. That other dude with the 500, I was like, I wish that's what it was. And it was you need more time to yourself to recuperate, to either cut away that tape or peel it back and put some new tape, cleansing your heart, healing, making yourself new again. It's never too late for anybody who has been, it takes more work for some people, but never is it too late. But you have to realize it. And you yourself, don't feel bad for your experiences in your journey, things that may have happened to you and were forced onto you, things that you were exposed to, and things that you wanted to do. You're still fresh. I can feel it in your spirit. And you're going to be okay. Not that you feel like something's not okay, but you're going to, because I know some people who are so encrusted, so damaged, that they don't even want to even begin to go anywhere near it to start healing. They just act like it doesn't exist. And they're walking around with this weight, while the people who have abused them, molested them, were predatory on them young, they're skedaddling around the world without a problem in the world. Ain't that something? And decades can go by, and people walk with this ball and chain of something that they weren't responsible for hitching on to them. And this is why it's so proper that we guard our children. Because I wasn't supposed to experience some things at 5 years old. Gave me all kind of twisted fetishes. You know what I mean? Like, that didn't bother me. It's just the fact that I wasn't supposed to go there so young and imprint my mind. Let things happen naturally.
Yes.
There are things that were put in my mind that as I got older, it became such an obsession and intense thing over the other dudes who are like, yo, they didn't say it like this, but it's like, we all horny adolescents, but you got a problem, man. Not in a predatory sense, but the things that were in my mind. You're making a cake, you're making a meal, you're making dinner, whatever. You know that there's certain things in sequence that you begin to prepare. I'm not going to sit here and eat no heavy pork or nothing like that, but you don't prepare the pork and put it in the oven and all of a sudden make the salad right away. The salad's going to be soggy. You leave the salad for last. You know when to make the vegetables. You know when to make the mashed potatoes. It's one meal, but each one has its different ETA, estimated time of arrival, to be ready. And so you have to, as a good cook or a chef, know how to balance these things out. So the things that I was made to do in a playful manner opened up something too early for me on a psychological level. And that part of my brain was open and messed up because I was absorbing a lot of things and did not even know it. So sex for me and sexuality for me was something extremely perverse. The more perverse was, the more I liked it, and just the situations and different things. So now I got this tangled ball of yarn it wasn't tangled before, it was wrapped around neatly, but since it was unraveled too young and now it's tangled, so now I got to untangle it and take my time and come to a place of healing all the way. That's the best way I can explain it.
Yep, that's the shadow work. That's the shadow work that we have to do. And these religious people, these non-believers,
tell me about it.
I don't know what they actually believe in, but they try to tell you that these things that are these spiritual things are evil, but really, these are this natural things, natural things that we should all be doing to heal ourselves, things that even they do themselves, and doing that shadow work is just addressing those issues. And once we start doing those things, once we start healing, it opens up a lot of things for us. And like you said, I have started healing from a lot of those things. And honestly, I'm going to be 33 this year in June. And it took me a long time, Lance, of very, very long time to even simply understand men and the way that they communicate, their language, and how men are very simple. If he doesn't call you, if he's not, you know, telling you that he's thinking about you or whatever, that
Right.
he's showing you how he feels. There are some guys that are shy, but they're gonna call you. If he's not calling you at all, or if he's only calling you at nighttime, I mean, hello,
Yeah.
like, wake up.
Uh-huh. You know what's
But
up.
some of us, like myself, which I'm, admitting to all of YouTube and the LANCESCURV family and people who come across this, is that a lot of times I was a very young and dumb. I was gullible. So a lot of things like that, if I experienced it for the first time, it's just like, you know, I'm just trying to find my way. It's kind of
Right.
like it's like somebody drop you off at sea. And that's how I kind of envision life. Is like somebody drops you off at sea, and you're out in the middle of nowhere, and they just drop you off in the middle of the ocean, and you have to find your way.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's how I see it. And I even remember when I was a little girl, when I used to dream more, I would have these like weird dreams where like people would be calling me, and I would be in this place, and like the people that were calling me, like it's like they were far away, and it's like I couldn't talk to them. It's like I was in like this 3D maze, and like the
I-
people were, like far away, and like they were echoing and like calling my name, and I'm just like, what's going on? It's like it,
wow.
it was
That's
so
scary.
much.
That's really scary because here's my version of that dream that has always been reoccurring for me. Like growing up in the city, I would love to like walk at night, just go out at night, stay out late, go in dangerous neighborhoods and walk around. I was weird. I never thought anything could happen to me, right? And nothing bad really did. I don't know what, I've had some calls and situations. So here I'm in my dreams walking, and it's like a red light district. Nothing's going on around me. There's nobody around me. But you know how sometimes, depending on how long a city block is, but 2 or 3 city blocks, I would see cars at red lights, it turns green and the cars move, right? You see people walking far away, with nobody near me. When I say dark, it wasn't pitch black. It was just nighttime in the city, in warehouse areas, and you're walking, but everybody was so far away that it's like, wait a second. So you try to catch up to that street where it seems to be busy, and you finally get there, and nobody's there. What's up with that? And then you'd see people 2 and 3 blocks away. And I'm like, but it wasn't like something where I felt doomed or scared or whatever. It's just that everybody was so far away from me and detached. And you hearing the voices, but not seeing anybody, to me, that kind of reminded me of the dream that I have. I have it every like maybe 3 times a year. And I still haven't figured out what that dream was all about.
I definitely think it has something to do like with the collective and just like where we come from cosmically, because
Mhm.
like I was going to say, like I really, a lot of these people like to demonize, spirituality, but ever since I was a little girl, like spirituality has always called me, and I never even knew. Like I remember, even though my father was a pastor and I grew up in a religious home, I remember being exposed to like um zodiac signs. And like the
Mhm.
first time I heard about it, I was like, wow, this sounds very interesting. But I always heard
Yeah.
my father and other people preach about these things and say that these things were evil. So I
Right.
would read these things. I would read them in the newspaper and stuff like that, and like read like the zodiac thing and like what they say is like, gonna happen for you today, and like, you
Right.
know, your lucky number or whatever. But I didn't take it seriously. And even, also as a young girl, I used to collect rocks. Like I was just like at school, like I'm a young Haitian girl, and like the teacher's like, "Oh, write down your hobbies," and I'm like, "Hobbies? What are those? Like, what is a hobby?" And they're like, "Oh, like if do you collect baseball cards?" And I'm like, "Baseball cards? Like my parents ain't buying me no baseball cards." And I'm just like, I don't know what my hobbies are. And so I realized, I'm like, okay, well, I'll collect rocks. Cause I found some rocks, and these rocks look cool. And, so I was just always into like these earthy things. And then when you grow up and as you're an adult and you realize, wow, like I used to play with rocks, and now I'm into crystals. And, I love being in nature. It's just like everything always circles back to you. That's why I said, like, life is all about us taking our time and going back to being that child and addressing those things that happened to us when we were children. It's like as we get old, like Haitian people, I don't know if it's specifically only Haitian people, but they have this saying that, I think American people do too, that when you actually become like an elderly person, you really become a baby again. It's like you go back, you start all over again because you're helpless. Like, you sometimes you can't feed yourself, you might need a diaper, you forget things, and it's like it's literally, some old people literally become babies again. And it's so much that as children that we're exposed to, and little bits and pieces that we get, and
Mm-hmm.
to show us about our lives and in the future. And then as adults, we go back and we look at this and it's like, hey, I remember this. And it's like ding. And it's like the spirit or the conscious world calling us and reminding us that, like, this is your journey, this is your path. So when I myself started to personally develop and like start to experience some of these things, read some of these things, like learn my own personal truth, like I became, I'm so deep into this stuff now that nobody can turn me around. Like
Right.
nobody can tell me and sway me, and make me believe some kind of construct and go to, to some building to worship some
Exactly.
mythical character. Like I can't go back to that anymore. Like everything makes sense now. Like literally, and all these things literally just started happening to me, like on its own, like just little by little these things just started happening to me. Like I just
Right.
started discovering these things about myself,
You embrace them.
like hey, this happened to me, and like when I was a kid, and that's why I act like this. And it's like we're living also in this new age where a lot of people are becoming, you know quote unquote woke about certain things. And a lot of people want to say, oh, well, I blame this on my childhood and this and that. No, 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 that's not what it's about. It's about you learning what happened in your childhood and how you fix it now.
That's
Why you
right.
do what you do and how do you fix it? Like nip it in the bud. If it happened when you were a child and you notice it and you keep carrying on with it, why do you keep doing it now that you notice it? And these are a lot of the things that we have to heal in our community. And once we heal these things, and we have healed children, or our children are growing up in healed spaces, they won't grow up to, want to be with bums and losers, and be attracted to people who can't treat them the way that they want to be treated, or they won't be so mentally susceptible to certain kind of tactics from other, devious people. Like we're all spiritually connected to each other, and some of the things that we experience, like these are all lessons, and that's why we're here. We have to learn these lessons from each other and do something with these things that we're learning, because our community is at risk. And I really wanted to focus on this, and the reason why I'm focusing on the community and why I wanted people to hear about this is because I think that this is something that can help our community to change and to stick together. Because so many of the things that we notice within our community, like our children not having their fathers there. I was at the park this one time with this girl. Like my son was just at the park, and this lady came up, and she let her kids out the car, and her kids were playing with my son. And she started talking to me, and we're just conversing and stuff. And this lady, like, she told, I don't know, we just started talking about baby daddies. Just started talking about baby daddies, and I told her, I was like, I don't know how we get to talk. I think we started talking about like income tax and stuff like that, and just buying the kids stuff or whatever. And she started talking to me about her baby daddy and stuff. And I was like, I had told her, I was like, yeah, I do everything on my own too and stuff like that. And I was like, I don't put my child's father on child support. And she was like, oh no, I put mine on child support and blah, blah, blah. And, I need that and da, 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 because they told me, this is what she said. She's like, oh yeah, they told me that if I didn't put him on child support, I wasn't going to get my food stamps. And, I also wanted to apply for housing. And I told her, I was like, yeah, that's what they do. And that's like, I told her, I was like, that's how they keep, Black families apart. Because if you don't put your baby daddy on child support, if don't, they don't care if he's working or not. They're just gonna add it on. That's why they be in rears and stuff like that. This is what happens to men, who have children. And hey, you just got to be careful what you do and what you choose. But this is what happens to them, and a lot of people are oblivious to this, because literally when I was telling this girl this information, it's like I was speaking a whole different language to her. And I was just like, yeah, I mean, in my mind, I'm like, well, if your baby daddy doesn't have any money, why are you putting him on child support? Just say you don't know your baby daddy. Just say you don't know who he is if you really need assistance that much, and you know your baby daddy's not helping you, because all they're going to do is put him in jail and take his driver's license away from him and make his life hard. And then you're going to get assistance. And like when I told her this, like it's literally like I was speaking Chinese. She could not understand me. And I was telling her, I was like, yeah, that's how they keep families apart. Like it's keeping your family apart like that, because your baby daddy is probably going to be upset at you because you put him on child support. He probably going to be, resentful of you. Don't visit his kids because you put him on child support, because you need your food stamp, you need your Section 8. And it's like, we don't get it. Like some people literally don't get it. These are the type of games that this government plays. So you got a broke man. This is why it's so important, like, to be responsible with who you lay down with. So now you got this broke man. He ain't got no money. He ain't got no job, but you laid down with him and had a baby with him. But either way, moving on. Now,
your life,
because you need assistance, because he can't help you, they're going to give you assistance. But you have to tell them who your child's father is so that they can look for him, because they're not giving you that money for free, really. They're going to take it from him.
Right.
His paycheck.
They're going to get a percentage. They're going to get a percentage themselves now.
Yeah. Because, they have to pay themselves, because they're working. They're working to look for your baby daddy and to arrest him and take his driver's license. They're working, to make him take care of his kids. So they're saying. That's what they're making it seem like. So you put him on child support. He doesn't have a job, but they still put him on there and says he has to pay something. Then he never pays. Now he has no driver's license. He can't get a job. If he was driving, he's now gets arrested for driving with a suspended license. Then he gets locked up. He can't get out. Like, do you guys, like, what are you missing? Like literally, that's me knocking on my head. Like, you take your knuckles, if you don't get it, and knock on your head, knock on your forehead, and wake up. Because some of us don't get it. And if you do all of this stuff, all it's doing is it's making it hard for him.
Yeah.
It's making it hard for him. And we all have our own choices. And I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying what I did and what I didn't do.
Right.
And what I don't need to do. Because what do I need to go put somebody on child support for? And you can always find a way to get what you need in this country. Just like they find, their way to get what they need, you can find your way to get what you need. These privileged people, they always find a way to take on the system, to get what it is that they need from the system. Even though they try to tell you, Republicans are the ones that are the highest users and abusers of, like, assistance, right? Public assistance, right? But they try to make it seem like it's all Black people, and it's people in the hood that's only on Section 8. But the Republicans, which we know a lot of Black people ain't Republicans, we're not. So it's Republicans. It's them, the red states, that are on assistance. Just saying. But these are the type of games that they play with you. And so now you don't care. So because you need your assistance, so you're gonna put your baby daddy on child support, and he's just not gonna care, because his life is fucked. His life is fucked. So he's just like, why do I need to care? I don't care about her. I don't care about them damn kids, and and we just don't get it, and we don't get it because we're just so wrapped up in our own little world. We're all worried about self, and some of us women can't take responsibility for some of the decisions that we created. And so when we do certain things and it makes it harder for our children, we can't see that, because all we see is that, no, I had to do what I had to do for my kids. But you didn't see that you were hurting your kids in the process. So that's why it's so important to talk to your kids, because they're going to grow up. Yeah,
right.
talk to them about reality. Stop freaking telling them that these lies. That, oh, there's a Santa and you have to behave, and if you don't behave, you're not gonna get a gift, and don't have sex, be a good girl, wait till you get your promise ring. But they don't know that the next door neighbor is knocking on the door when they're not there, and that the next door neighbor really, really likes you, and you really like him too. And that he's a little aggressive. One day he might come in here and you might do something. Like, these are the things that happen. And it's like we live in this oblivious world. And we think that because we go to church, we can pray this stuff away. You're just a regular person, just like me. There's no difference with you because you're in church. So this is why it was really important for me tonight to talk about some of these things and even share some of my truth, because I may not, like I said, I told some things that other people don't know about. I didn't spill all the tea, but it's things that go on with our children that we don't know about, and we have to talk to our children before other people talk to our children. It's okay to talk to them about sex. Sex is a natural thing. It's how they came about. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful energy. But instead of, if you're afraid that your child's going to focus on sex, why don't you focus on getting them that so-called hobby? See what it is that they're inspired by. Let them, learn about yoga and how they can transfer that energy that they're feeling, because that's all it is. It's a sexual energy that they're having. And it's an overflow of that energy. They need to transfer that energy to a different source.
And get
That's all it is.
Great satisfaction from that. I mean, for me, I've been drawing from single digit ages, 3-4 years old. And it takes me to a place that no other thing can take me to. Like, there's different things that I do. And when I want to go to that place and play some music and just draw, it is a rewiring of your sexual energy. You see? That for me, when I really in my life wanted to accomplish something, I would rewire myself and put all of my drive into this. And it can be where you take yourself to some incredible places. And it doesn't mean you cut off sex all the way, but your mind and that energy, and you put everything there if you really want it. And oftentimes you find afterward that you don't even have enough energy to focus on those other things, as far as how they push the carnal on you in this world and in this plane. Like sexual energy is just not what you see as far as porn is concerned, but it has us thinking that it has to go that way. But sexual energy is a narrowed version of life force. And life force is the overall tree. And the one branch or two branches or three branches of that tree that is purely sexual, coming up from the trunk, you could divert some of that energy that's going to go into that branch and put it to the other branches and become a powerful dynamo. But people don't know that. But what you said was beautiful, that they can have hobbies and things they want to explore. And you have the mind of your children before the world does. Put that down payment on their mind so that they never forget. Put the foundation there so they have something mentally to come home to. That even if they get bombarded with things that are of a lower vibration and a carnal nature, it may tempt them. They may put their foot in the water and experiment, but at the end of the day, it brings them more pleasure to come on back to what they know is home in their heart. My parents have transitioned in 1990, my father, 1994, my mother. But a lot of things that they put in me, I didn't realize I possessed until they transitioned. And it was like I had these extra arms that came out. Like when you see the picture of the man that has 6 arms. I had more arms. I'm like, wait a second. And I could hear my parents in me talking, meaning that things that you would go to do that they were training you not to do, make sure to, clean up that table, make sure you hear these things. And even on deeper levels, their wisdom comes to you and you're guided. But you have to put these things, you have to imprint them with these things in their mind from young, because you know that people who do great things, they started from young. And you have a gold mine with your children. I'm not talking about money. Yeah, if they get great, they'll make money, but a gold mine in how you can direct their energy from young and set them up in a way of thinking that will always bring them to a place of success, because that's the foundation and not this cheap, watered down thing that the world gives them, to have them as mediocrity. None of us are made to be mediocre. None of us are made to be this thing that they call normal, which is the average of everything in the man-made world. No, I'm great, you're great, everybody here is great, whether we know it or not. We're all great and made to do great things. The earlier we start, when we're free, and this is for the parents, when you're free and you don't have to worry about a mortgage, a car note, a job, taking care of the children or whatever, and you're a child and your parents or your mother, your father, parent, whatever it is, aunt, grandmother, caretaker, whatever, and they put this stuff into you, carry you along and invest time, not just, okay, here's a book, read it, just get something. No, take them, they're new to the world. And your brain is a big sponge at that time. So, I sponged some great things. I had that incident happen to me, but there were other great things going on, so I can escape within myself, where others who didn't have that foundation, they'll sit there and wonder, should I go to the club tonight? Should I go here? Idle time? No, I was the kind of child that if you left me alone, I'd always find something to do. I'd always find something progressive and constructive, creative to do. And I'm the same way now. Even as a person who's lived here many decades on this earth, I'm reverting and going back to that child in a good way. I'm not looking forward to wearing Depends anytime soon, but that inner child that's still there, that original branch that was there on your tree before you had the other branches. I want to cater to that. I want to laugh. I want to wake up. I want to find my friends and laugh and talk and explore and be a child again, not like a immature person that doesn't know, but have that childlike life where I'm in this perpetual joy, knowing the things that I know from life, that I can say, okay, I know how to keep myself straight and out of trouble. I know how to keep myself in this lane. I earned that, and it was handed to me. And if we can do that for our children on the level of sex and keeping these molesters away and understanding how powerful it is and spelling it out to them clearly, they don't have to go through any shock. My father took me around and showed me all kind of stuff that I didn't have to be curious about and get involved in. If I had a period of insecurity or fell or felt depressed and let me go try this out. No, I knew exactly what it entailed and what road it would lead you down. And I did not want to go down the road of what I saw, of what my father took me around in the hoods in different places and showed me explicitly what it was. So this is why there's certain things, I mean, I'm not being cocky, but there's certain things I ain't gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
If they say, oh, I saw Lance out there with some lines of coke, or he had some white powder in his hand, it might be the vitamin B3 that I take. It looks like cocaine. It's a powdered form. It ain't going to be alcohol. It ain't going to be out there where I'm picking fights with people in the street. No, I will defend myself. I know what my Achilles heel has been, and I'm okay with the way things are right now. I keep myself busy, SCURV, whatever. I'm good. I want to be childlike and have that happy wake up in the morning like, wow, what are we going to do today? Not like, oh God, I got to do this. No. In your spirit, you keep yourself youthful and see the good in the world. We know the bad, and I know the bad. I'm not living in La La Land. I don't have a natural Prozac gland in me where I wake up and everything's just, I deal with things. But to look forward to that, I'm doing that now, and I ain't waiting. The system ain't gonna suck me out and have me dropping dead after. They couldn't believe it. Lance, you're leaving now, At 57 and a half years, I mean, you can go to Social Security, you can go to 70. No, I'm not doing it. I'm out. And the ones who said they were right behind me, who even had more time, they still over there doing their thing and complaining about how expensive things are. So I'm like,
backwards.
I am.
They're so backwards. They like being at the death camp.
No, I mean, no. I know on Saturday, me and Mrs. SCURV, we did that little walk up in the mountains and everybody loved it. Well, I'm gonna take that same, the nicer camera, and we're not going in the mountains. We have a few runs to make in Accra and different sides of town that I've never showed before. I'm gonna get that camera, we're gonna hold it the whole time, and I'm gonna show it. If I can get 2 or 3 hours worth of footage, and just so you can zone out and see, maybe somebody wants to escape. I want to do these things, and it's just to make people feel good, make them have a different experience, as well as the things that we discuss here, the real stuff, as well as the fun stuff. Life, I can say is what you make it, but we know there are bad things that happen to good people. I've learned many lessons. I've seen many things. I'm okay. I'm okay to go up in the mountains and finish up and work my craft more in this phase of my life, and to be still and to know that I've met a lot of people, experienced a lot of things, and I can kick it back in a way that it can be useful for other people and just go on till I expire. I'm good with that. I'm realistic about that. I'm not delusional. I'm not sitting here with no little blue pills and trying to get this red sports car, this drop top, and be some old man with chains, and I've got a shirt buttoned down on my belt, and I'm trying to be cool, saying slang that's 50 years younger than me. No. Like I said, I don't want to be that dude I don't want to be a 60-year-old rapper telling you all about some mixtape I'm doing and my tape's about to drop. No, I don't do that. No way. I'm all right where I am. Just like we were on the show last night, the night before, we don't script it, we flow. And we have a good time, and we teach each other from our experiences. And that's the best way of learning, because even in our exchange tonight, there's somebody listening. It might be a child. It might be somebody older that may not want to take some kind of instruction directly, but just sitting here listening like, well, they got a good point. What Master Glam said was excellent. You're teaching tonight. And I'm so glad that, you came on and even look, you got to come on regular. I'm telling you, like Nico and Kimberly and you and everybody else, there's so much you have inside of you to share.
Oh,
I want to hear more and more and more and more. So you let me know.
I have so much to share, Lance. Because like I said, I've been through so much. And we're not attacking church people, because these things happen, it could happen to anyone, anywhere. I know a woman who I used to work with, come to find out, while I was still there working with her, like one random day at work, she had to leave. And come to find out, this lady, her daughter, was, I don't remember exact age, but she was in her early teens, mid to early teens, and she had a young child, and the mother, never knew her to be promiscuous or anything, never knew her to be having sex or anything, Lance. And one day the girl was at school, and she was at this school that was like a special school for young girls with children. And she was talking to her friend about things that were going on at home. And one of the staff members overheard this girl talking about basically someone who was molesting her. And so the lady kept listening to the conversation, and she ended up calling the police, and they took the girl to the hospital with the baby, and the mom got called away to work, and from work and stuff like that, and she had to go to the hospital. And they told the mom that basically the staff member overheard the girl saying that she was being molested, and she had been being molested for years. And the person, Lance, who was molesting her, The person who was the father of her child was her stepdad.
Wow.
This man lived with her, and they I don't know how they got him to come to the hospital, but they got him to come to the hospital, and his blood was tested, and he was a match for the child's father. And so ever since this girl was about 8 years old, he had been molesting her.
That's the same story from the dude that I worked with. I mean, the same similar, right? All I'll say is Orlando, Florida.
Well, this happened in Orlando, but I'm pretty sure this happened, over here. I'm in Broward, so.
Right.
But, and these things, it's because people are so sick, Lance. Like, so it's like, it's not something that's unheard of. But this, like, since she was 8 years old, this man came into her life, acted as her father. This man had multiple children with this woman, and I could just tell he was a weirdo anyway, because anytime I wanted to go out with her, she would have to be like, oh, I have to ask my baby daddy and stuff like that. And I'm just like, ask, like, you never go out, like, you guys should just communicate together. But I'm a young girl at the time, so I ain't married. I don't know nothing about being married and whatever, but he just seemed weird to me. But she later came to work and she told me about this, and come to find out, this man had been having sex with her daughter for years. This man impregnated her. He was literally living with his own child under the premise that was his step grandson or whatever. And this man, he would, the children found out about this too, because like I said, he had multiple children with the mother. And a lot of them were around the same age as the girl, like, they weren't too far apart. So these are grown kids, they're like 13, 14 years old, 12. Some of them are 8.
How bold is that? How bold is it?
He was doing it while they were there. He would call the girl to the room and he would lock the door, because he was a very strict father. So they thought that she was getting like a punishment or something, because he used to beat them. He used to beat the mother. He beat the mother in front of the children. So they were very fearful of him. So when he would call the girl in the room, like literally the mother, like when she's telling me this story, revealing to me all this stuff that happened, she told me, she was like, yeah, my boys were like, that's why he always takes her in the room. And so the mom started talking to the boys, and they're like, yeah, this stuff happens all the time, but we didn't know that's what he was doing to her. We thought she was probably getting her ass whooped, but he was calling her into the room and having his way with her, Lance.
But how do you do this and I can't say feel good about it. I'm just saying, how do you feel about yourself? It's an 8-year-old girl, right? And in the situation I know about, I can't tell the super details and proximities because there are people who may find out. No, it's already found out. But for the sake of the daughter and for the sake of the woman that he married, not to shame her, I won't even say what job it was. So it's over with. Mm-hmm. He's discovered, but he's like on the run, kind of. He's like, you can't find him. And he has money. So to not shame that mother and her daughter, but he groomed her he came into his wife's life when her daughter was like about 2 years old. So here he is taking care of her. She worked a lot. He worked a lot. But when he was home with the daughter, his stepdaughter, he did what he had to do to take care. So it looked like he was a good father, a good stepfather. And what he did, he pre-groomed her, knowing that when she's 13, 14, 15, she's going to start looking at boys and stuff. So he played the perfect father role from the position of being father, although he was a stepfather. But he added elements in it that would offset her as a young child. And when she gets a little older, she would start to notice the boys because he became that boy. Not a boy, but anything to soak up any beginnings of any sexual energy coming from her. So he was already messing with her from 8, 9, 10 years old. And then it graduated into full intercourse because they were doing oral and all that stuff and everything. And it went off into full intercourse. And then when she got pregnant and the mother wanted to know, like, who were you messing with? And she wouldn't tell. She refused to tell. They didn't take him for any blood test because, or any, DNA, because he didn't think of that. Because the way the daughter was dealing with him, and it was his fault, he did it, but he was giving her everything she wanted. He was, in a sick way, whether the daughter knew it or not, that she was being molested and taken advantage of, she had to realize something was wrong, but he was just that great guy doing all the stuff for her, and she was so happy. And when she'd come home from school and the wife was working the night shift and he's off, he was going to town. And he never come out the house. He was just, and then she got older and older and older. And as far as like being a young teenager, that's when she got pregnant. And he was still doing stuff. And I don't know. It's just crazy how much energy he put in. And I saw him before I left Orlando, and he came to have this great conversation with me and everything like that. It was already out, but he was on his way out, but I have insider information that wasn't told directly to me, but stuff that I know that it would have been a testy situation because this particular man was very evil. If you met him, you'd think he's the greatest guy in the world. He's smiling and he's witty. Come on, y'all, let me take you out to lunch. And he was good that way. He was slick that way, right? But also he was a very evil person in things that I found out that he did, and that's why he's on the run, because of the other things also. Because for sport and play, he wouldn't think nothing about snuffing somebody. Let's just put it that way. There's some twisted people out here, and I'm glad that when I didn't know these things about him, he invited a few guys out to say, hey, let's go here, let's go there. Let's Lance, I want you to come with me 35 miles out off the coast, maybe in the what's the inside there? Not the outside with Atlantic Ocean, but inside, where Louisiana, whatever, in the Gulf of Mexico, right? Mm-hmm. Where the waters are calm. We're gonna take our boat. We're going out 35, 40 miles. But I wasn't part of his clique. So I'm like, it's a black man, but I'm like, you ain't sacrificing me, because I found out other things about him. He was so hot on, come on, man, let's go. I said, listen, how do you deal with the storms out there, whatever? No, you can navigate around it. Whatever. He says, but it's kind of weird because when you go out there, it's pitch black, but you get some good fish. You ain't pushing me over. Him, but you ain't getting me. You're gonna knock me in the head with a hammer and push me over. No, you ain't gonna do that. Because he would smile, but in my spirit, I knew something was off with this guy. And come to find out, this is what he was doing with his stepdaughter, and there's some other things that he did that, he's got to stay away from the law. Listen, bottom line, if you feel something in your gut, heed to it. It's almost where you're psychic, when you go with your gut. I have beat many people to the punch in so many different areas in ways where they got to be like, how did he know I was going to do that move on him? Not all the time, but the more and more you trust your gut, that voice will come to you and you will hear it and you'll know exactly what to do. Even when other people say, well, why you want to do that? They didn't do anything to you. No, you know it. You know it. There are people out here who have been doing sacrifices to snuff me out. It ain't work yet. Animal sacrifices, going up in the mountains and paying people, ain't work yet. Spend all this money on this stuff. Now, I'm not talking about the real stuff, but the superficial stuff that they think they can do and pay somebody and do this. No. Because you ain't vibrating right. If you're not vibrating right and you're not strong and rooted in what you do, all this stuff is going to be superficial. But when you are really about it and meditating and living a certain way and truly connected to all things spiritual, nothing's going to touch you. Nothing. I've been threatened that way and all. What? I'm still here. If I heeded to that, I've been going about 30 years ago. I think I'm the most rooted person I know.
And see, Greedy in the chat said that his babysitter used to do him in. See, this happens with like people that you trust, and that's the thing. Like, just like you said, like that guy, like he seemed like a great person, and that's what they do. Like they put on this act. They're such great actors. They act like they're these great people, but really, like they're really sick on the inside. And it's just all a part of their act, so that when somebody does accuse them, they can be like, that's not of me. That's not my character. I'm not this kind of person. And this is what this man was doing. He was molesting his stepdaughter from when she was a little girl, doing it while his own children were there. This man grew up with his own son, pretending that was his grandson. Like he didn't know where that baby came from. And even after all of that, he was telling the mother that, you can't, like, you need to drop these charges. Like, get me out of here. Like, you can't even take care of those kids by yourself. Like, what can you do for them? Like, he was just bringing her down. Like, there are some people out here, like, they're literally sick. Like, we don't know what happened in their childhood, but there are some sick people out here. Like, you have to be a sick individual to rape your stepdaughter. Like, which our stories are very similar, Lance, because he came into that little girl's life when she was about 1 or 2 years old as well. So you knew her when she was a baby. You raised her. You're practically her father, and you were sleeping with her. Like, you're disgusting. And then, some of us were, I don't want to throw salt in the wound, but some of us it's like some of us women, like, we're so oblivious to some of this stuff that happens. This, like, come to find out, like, she had some STD and the daughter had the same STD in it as well. And I'm like, okay, well,
right. That's telling you right there.
Both of you. He gave it to both of you. He was sleeping with her. And so he and the mother, she literally was telling me, no, like, they told me that you can get chlamydia from the restroom and stuff like that. And no, that's not how it works, honey. That's not how any of this works. Like that lady says on the commercial, that's not how this works. You don't get it from the toilet seat. That man gave it to you. He's been having sex with you. He's been having sex with somebody else. He got some kind of disease, and he came and he gave it to you, and he gave it to your daughter. Yep. And there's nothing to be ashamed about, because this is not something that you did or that you asked for. This is something that a monster did and gave to you.
That's right.
And it's like, we have to start holding these people accountable. And when we see them, call that shit out. Because people can't feel like this kind of stuff is acceptable. It's not acceptable. It's weird. It's disgusting. And you harm this little girl. And honestly, Lance, I'm not saying that, she's a bad person, but he really changed that girl, because she has several children now. Several children now. They all have the same dad, but still, who would have known, what her life would have been like if he didn't do that to her? Because you opened her up to something. This is what this is all about. Just like what happened to me. When a child is young and they are impressionable, their mind is like a sponge, and you open them up to certain things, they absorb these things, and these things start to be instilled within them. And that's why it's so important for us to really start to communicate with our kids, to be real with them, to talk to them about these things. So when they are approached, with these things, or if something happens, they can feel like they can trust their parents enough, no matter if they're threatened or anything. But we really have to start doing the hard work, because a lot of us, we grow up and, we date these men, and then we have these children, and then, the family is broken, which our children need, these 2-parent households, or at least, even if they can't have a 2-parent household, they need to have a healthy household. And a lot of our kids don't even have that. Some of us
Right.
can't even leave our crazy baby daddy or baby mama alone because we're so toxic. We just can't leave each other alone, and we're not thinking about our kids. And
Right.
these kids are growing up and they're just like, it's just like whatever. It's just like a roll of the dice. And we just can't have our kids out here like that. They are the next generation. They're innocent, and we have to do the best that we can for them. The things that happen to us, we have to learn from them and see what it is that we can do better for our children. But when we're so wrapped up in this music, this ghetto hood music, this rap stuff that ain't teaching us nothing, that's teaching us to only care about money, material things, and sex, and all these things, when we're so wrapped up in that stuff, we're not seeing the true light. We're not seeing what we're really here for. We're wrapped up in our own world. We don't care about each other. We don't love each other. You know, it all comes down to just us working on ourselves and just caring enough. So I really hope that some of these parents that are listening to this, even mothers who, if you don't already have a child,
Right.
just be careful. And because things happen, you might see somebody as one way, but as you start to to know them, you start living with them, you start to see how they parent, and just like, wait, I didn't know that you were this kind of person. I didn't know you knew this. Sometimes things happen, and
Right.
what we have to do is realize these things and just start working on them. We have to work on ourselves. We're always going to be a work in progress, but we can't run from these things. There's a lot of things that we have to clean up within our community. And, I'm sorry, going to church and, only praying on this stuff ain't going to help. We need action.
That's right.
We need action. The children need action. And we can do this. We can heal our community. It's never going to be perfect because there's just like there's balance, there's imbalance in the world. But it's just, I just really wanted to share some of these things, some of these stories that I had, some of
Yes.
these things that happened to me, some of these things that I've experienced, because it comes to my attention that people think that because they're within this social status, or they're within this social group or this religious group, that that they're immune to certain things, and it's not true.
That's
It's
right.
not true, because these things happen to me, they happen to people who I know. And at the end of the day, like I was saying, we can't control everything that happens to our child, but we can do what we can do. We can do our best.
Which
And
vastly improves their chances, to have that protection to keep them from, falling victim to something like this. Because as you can see, the stories that we just told, these predators are bold. How do you whip your wife, whip your kids, and lock the door and bring a young child into the room, and actually, in their sick, twisted way, get into it? You know what I
hmm,
mean? How do you do that? And what are you thinking when you're doing what you do? Like, we all think things. What are you thinking? Yeah, you were 2 years old when you came to my life. You know what I mean? Like, look at you now. You're 8 years old now. Like what are you thinking? This
it's
is
like,
like,
how do you process, like and it's like we'll never understand because we don't have that sick mind. But it's just like it's like you can't, it's like we can't understand, you can't understand how another person can see a young child, a little girl. She's not even developed, she has no breast, she has no shape,
it's a little girl.
like she's a little girl and you're turned on by her. She has on a strawberry shortcake pajama, dress on, and you're turned on by that. Like, you're sick. You're literally like sick. You're turned on by little boys. It's just so much stuff that's going on within our community. And then when these people grow up and they're confused and just it's just too much, Lance. It's too much. And it's like I don't know if you said it or who said it on the last show, but it seems to be like this younger generation. Well, no, it was Papa Duck who I was listening to, and he was saying that a lot of the younger generation, like, they're accepting this stuff, like this gender neutral, and what is it,
Right.
by I don't know,
Binary.
binary, yeah, like
I haven't
what
figured
is
that one
what
out
is
yet.
that? It's either you're a
Gender
girl or you're a
fluid.
boy. That's it. There's no in
Yeah,
between. Like, why is it that our society can just make shit up and we just go along with it?
right,
Why?
right.
I don't understand us. They're literally just making shit up and we're just going along with it. Like, how gullible can you be? And then we try to wrap our mind around this. We come up with every excuse to try to defend this stuff.
Offended.
And it's like, no, it doesn't make any sense. And stop trying to make it make sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Nothing.
And like I said, all this stuff is really all about energy. You know, we all have energy, male energy. We have feminine energy. We have masculine energy. We each of us have both of those. Some of us have a little more than the other. You know, some of us, the scales tipped over on the other side, but like, I strongly believe that everything is a choice. And hey, if that's the choice that you want to live, then live that life. But don't bring that shit to my kids. Don't press that up on my kids. Don't
You
tell
to
my
be right.
5-year-old that he can be whatever he wants to be. No, he's a boy.
Right.
He's gonna be a boy.
Change that.
It's crazy, some of the stuff that we're just letting like just slide by. And it like he was saying, you know, it's the younger generation that is just so accepting of this stuff. You know, it's like we're so afraid to say certain things.
You're born
We're
into
afraid to cross that line.
Mm-hmm. You're born into it. These shadow powers that be, they don't care about us. Look, you're half my age, but your awareness that you have, they don't care about you. Because they figure, well, you know, maybe a couple of decades, but you're going to die off anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And your ideologies will go with you. And it's just like when you're in the hood and you see this big warehouse that is now torn down. And now you see these boards up, but they're digging deep in the ground. And up on the side by the corner, they say, like, this is 2023. By 2026, this is going to be a complex shopping area, condo, university. And they have a rendering of what it is going to look like down to the exact detail. And you say, what? This is the hood. They ain't going to do that. They already have all the permits. They already have the funding for it. It's a wrap. It's a done deal. Why am I saying this? Well, because these entities don't think in terms like many of us, where we're thinking about Friday night and the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Up, oh yeah, Friday night, a song from the 70s, right? And living for the weekend and just, okay, I had I had a rough week. I just can't wait to get that little stiff drink on Friday, hang out, do whatever I want to do, lay out on a Sunday and repeat the process again. They're thinking long term. They already got plans for your kids. They already got plans for your grandkids. They already got plans for the world, but we don't expand our thinking enough to look beyond. And then as soon as we start to look beyond and see something of a pattern and something that's concrete, somebody comes and tells us, man, don't listen to that. That's a conspiracy theory. You know, yeah, you're right, whatever. No, if you see it, it's in your gut. If you have enough enlightenment, that's what it is. But they don't care about us. And we got to understand that the world we grew up in, and it's a damn shame. I'm 60 and you're going to be 30, but we're pushed together because of our ideology. Like for them, they wait for us to die off. These children are growing up and this is their normalcy. This is normal to them. The parents are the ones that are saying stuff to them. Hey, but this is what's in the world for them. You know, just like now, you know, we talk about sex and different things. If you don't teach it to them, they're going to learn it in the schoolyard. They're going to learn it walking home from school. They're going to do things. You send your child to be punished in his room. They're laughing at you. They got a computer. They got a tablet. They got a smartphone. If you take those things away, who knows? They might hold one of the friends and be in there seeing all kind of things. And the minds are being warped. to accept this as normalcy and suggest things to them. So they try these things out. You know, I was shocked when years ago I saw what I'm gonna say it too. It's graphic. Chicks with dicks. I saw. I was like, man, I don't want to see that. This was like, man, look at this. I don't want to see that. But it's seasoned in their mind. There's another job I used to work on, and we had a dude who was a porn pusher. For those who, for some reason, they didn't have a computer at home or they didn't want to go on their computer and watch porn, this guy would get you the DVDs that you wanted. So I didn't notice. I walked up on them. It was a lunch break, and they were out in the parking lot. And so these are two white guys. I walked up on both of them, and they had it in their hand. He was handing it to me. I was like, yo, what's that, porn? So he said, yeah, man. You know, I like to, you know, and them white guys, them Italian guys, they'll tell it. You know, sometimes with my girl, she's on a period, I like to pull the pud. Whatever. Oh, yeah, you didn't tell me all that. Well, he had like 10 movies, right? And I said, let me see what you're looking at. I had to bust him, right? And he was nervous. Here, take these. I said, no, I want to see the ones you don't want me to see. Wedged in the middle, there was 2 of them. 8 movies that were kind of normal activity, but the 2 chicks with dicks. That's what he was really wanting to see.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So his mind was already sold out. That told me that he's probably out there thinking about it, doing it, but that was his thing. And so now we have all of these different categories. It was a couple of years ago. I don't know how true it still is. It doesn't show up in the drop down on Facebook, but they said they had 71 or 72 different sexual categories of how you can identify yourself with, right? 72. All I know is, let's just say it, dick and pussy. That's all I know. Unless you go up to some planet somewhere with it. No. Vagina and penis combined together create a child.
Yep.
Where the other 70 categories come from? Why are you trying to confuse the children? Imagine you went to the pizza joint and they had 1,000 different types of pizza. You like, you confused. You're like, it's too much. It's crazy. And guess what? The worst is yet to come. Because some of these people are going to be coming out here and we got the internet. You can lock yourself in your room, put up a cam. Dudes, little boys dressing up like little girls, girls going butch, doing different, all this weird stuff going on. You don't know what they are. Androgynous.
They know what they are. They don't even know what they are.
You don't know.
And that's the thing. They want you so like warped, like so like mentally fucked, basic, that like they just don't give a fuck about us. They don't care. Like they want us so far away from like normal, whatever normal is supposed to be. That's really what they want. Why would it be that they would push this stuff onto our children? And it's like this generation, as it's gonna be a change in the consciousness. And when people mention consciousness and like how this is like another shift, like we're going into another dimension, like people think like it's like some kind of magical thing that's going to happen, or that, you know, this is something that can or cannot be seen with the physical eye. But really what's happening when we mention that, you know, we're going into another consciousness, is that a lot of these things, like these natural things, like how I mentioned earlier, that when you used to think about somebody and they would just call you like on the phone, and then you'd be like, oh yeah, I was just thinking about you, like those type of things. Like our children are going to be so out of touch with that consciousness, with that dimension. They're in this COVID dimension, and you know, now they're doing these meta glasses, like they're leaving like the real world behind.
Right.
This is what we're talking about when we're saying that, you know, we're going into a different consciousness. This is another dimension that's coming because of all of this stuff, all this progress, that so-called progress that, you know, the world is making. We're leaving nature behind. That is what we're talking about when people say that, you know, we're going into another consciousness. these children are going to be so out of touch with nature that it's like certain things that they just don't understand. Like they're in a whole nother reality. So
Yeah.
this is the dimension that we're going into. When we were all nature, we're all natural people, just like the dream that I was talking about that I had, and the dream that Lance was talking about that we had. Like that was probably us in like some other dimension, like a dimension that we
Right.
can't even, think about when we're awake. Like it's a dimension that has to be tapped into, when you're asleep. So, these are the dimensions and stuff that we're talking about. But
Right.
if we don't get ourselves together and start, getting into nature and just getting back to reality and, getting off the phone sometimes, limiting the kids being on technology. I know technology has brought forth, great things, but, your kids should be able to get back to reality.
Yeah.
Sometimes, whenever my son has like any of these little, spouts or whatever, and he's like upset that he can't be on the phone, I take it away from him longer, because it's like you shouldn't be crying
Right.
because you can't be on the tablet. That's a problem. You're attached to it. And like we were speaking about before, there has to be a healthy detachment from things. You
Yeah.
can't, like, you have to learn to be bored. And I tell him that sometimes. And
It's
sometimes,
nice being bored.
yeah, sometimes I tell him, like, you're gonna be bored, like you're not gonna do anything. And he's like, mommy, like, he'll come to me, he's like, please, mommy, I have nothing to do. And I'm like, good. Because
But that's
even
time to
sometimes,
cleanse.
yeah,
That's a time of internal
sometimes
cleansing.
as an adult, sometimes it's like you get off your phone and stuff, and it's like you're quiet. I remember there was one time, like, I think my phone was disconnected, and like I had to sit home, and like I didn't do anything, and I was just like, I'm just gonna lay down. And it was a rainy day, Lance, and I just listened to the rain like all
Nope.
day.
So I like that.
I went to sleep and I took a nap, like, and it was back to like how I was when I was a child. Those times when I was so bored and my parents would be like, no, you can't go outside, just stay home. Like, I don't want you going outside playing with those kids. I was back to being that little girl again. And
That's where
like,
to be.
and
Yeah.
we really need to go back to that.
Yeah.
That's why sometimes you see people walking around and it's like they're in a whole nother world. Or people even go to clubs and it's like they're at the club but they're on their phone. It's like none of us are present anymore. We're so wrapped up in technology that we're
Right.
just not we're not here anymore. So
But just think,
we're missing a lot of these little nuances that are happening.
we missed them. We're supposed to connect with them. But just think, we're raising up. I'm not saying we are raising them up, but they're coming up in this time when reality is this engineered thing. We're not thinking about also, as they get into this metaverse and this alternative reality, that drugs are still there. That
Yep.
now, without drugs, they're going off into a different consciousness. You can't even call it consciousness. It's just a place that really doesn't exist, because true consciousness brings you back to all things natural, nature. When you begin to question yourself, when you look within, when you have no choice to look outside, it's like a person who goes into solitary confinement in prison. What are you looking for? The meal 3 times a day? Nothing. You're forced to think to yourself. And I've known some guys that they've gone into solitary confinement. They freak out and they're screaming, they're trying to hit the walls, their hair growing out crazy, they talking all crazy. When they come back, they kind of come back to normal. But there's this one guy who they really thought he was nuts. And I connected with the guy. You know what I mean? He never gave me no problems or anything like that. When they had to take him to solitary confinement in the dark, because the lights go off a certain time, and it's not like you can hear the sounds of the hallway and guards and SEALs walking by. Solitary confinement in that particular facility was a thick wall, a thick door, and a long hallway, and it was double or triple cinder blocks, and you couldn't hear or see anything. And in our training to go there and work, we had to go in there for a couple minutes, and it was startling, but it was different. But I know I could handle it. I just think more. And when the daytime comes, they put the light on inside, these guys would get to writing. So I would tap into that side of myself. Forget the metaverse You got to get into your innerverse. And the metaverse is pulling you outside of yourself, utilizing your brain, putting these glasses on, and you're seeing something that doesn't exist, and you're neglecting your inner development and your spiritual development, which shrivel up and go away. Because then now with this metaverse coming and us being pulled away and CERN being fired and all types of entities coming on the face of the earth, you're going to see more crazy shootings, different types of molestations, different types of groups of people that they'll appear to have no soul. So a lot of these children coming up, you better watch them. You better put the real thing inside of them. You better raise them the right way, where others, oh, that's corny, that's old stuff. No, like I said, no matter what mistakes or misjudgments that we made, we have to have a standard that we aspire to, even when we fall off the mark, like the double yellow line in the middle of the road. Like I said, you can cross that line. If there's a truck in front of you, you look around, you get around safe. But there's got to be a standard. We got to go back to eating dinner with our children, accountability, what happened in school, the teacher calls, we got to work on this, go to the school and deal, if you're not homeschooling, whatever, but accountability all the time. They can't feel safe in their room. We're not talking about a Gestapo situation. We're talking about being able to catch things early. If you see drug paraphernalia in your children's room, they're, oh no, my children would never do that. And they're the biggest addicts out there later on. Make them, I mean, don't break down their sense of privacy, but they're going to have to be accountable. And if you find something in their room when they're in school, you're going to have to sit down and talk to them about that. And they're going to feel so naked and violated, whatever it may be. But it's best to feel naked and violated for the small little things as opposed to some big problem where now your son comes home, he's been screwing around, he came home now, he's got HIV. Well, what you going to do? You see, and like we spoke before in the title of the show, there's a lot of shame, denial, and dysfunction where we want to cover these things up and parents not taking accountability for how they raise their kids. So it's a two-way street, but don't expect any help from this society the way it's going. Access to the internet is not always a good thing. You get in and you get out. Why, with your children, why do you want to get on? Are you studying something? Or you want to surf certain things, wildlife, nature? Well, I'm going to sit right here behind you and do what I do in the kitchen or wherever. And as you surf, I'm watching it with you. Surf wherever you want to go, except where you know you're not supposed to go. And if you're over their shoulder and on them that way, they may not like you too much. But at the end of the day, when you guide them clear to avoid the storms and the shark-infested waters of this life, guess what? They're going to thank you for it because they're going to have friends that fell off the wayside. Talk to me, sister.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Lance. Like I said earlier, if it wasn't for my parents like having a tight like hold on me, and me just being honestly fearful of them, because my parents didn't play. But if it wasn't for that, who knows where I would be, because like I said, even though I didn't feel like the prettiest girl, some people thought I was, and some people were grown men. So, we can't be scared to talk to our children about these things. They lead to certain issues. And who knows where I would be. I could have been a teen mom. I could have had STDs and stuff, because honestly, when I was growing up and I had, started being sexually active, I didn't fully understand STDs and STIs and stuff like that. Honestly, I thought that, if there weren't like bodily fluids, like physically,
Right.
exchange, then I thought, hey, you can't get anything. That's how I thought growing up. And
Mm-hmm.
I had to learn. There are things that I just had to learn. And, for some people, they might have to learn in a way that is very painful to them. So that's why I'm saying that it's so essential for us to be able to talk to our kids, to make them feel comfortable. And also, I did see someone said something in the chat, like, how did the mom not realize, with what I was talking about earlier? And
Right.
like I said, I don't know if you missed it, but he would do these things while the mother was at work. So it wasn't the mother that was there while he was doing it; it was the other children. She was the oldest, and her younger siblings would be there. Like, this would happen, like, when they got off school and their mother was away and stuff like that. And like I said, the mother, he beat the mother. And I know her, there's some people, we're all different. We can't make excuses for everyone, but some of us have low self-esteem. Some of us are stronger than others. Some things that I will allow to happen, to me, other people might not allow that. you know so it's really different for each person. But I'm pretty sure she did what she could, because she's an amazing mother. I personally know her. This isn't just a story that I found. She was there for her kids, but unfortunately the person whom she trusted, who was the father of her other 6 children, was taking advantage of her and her children. And that's just the way that the cookie crumbles. And we just have some people like that are just, they're sick. There are people that are sick, and we can't blame it on anyone else but them. There's where there is a will, there is a way. There are people that are going to find a way to do whatever it is that they want, be it how sick it is, how nasty. If somebody wants to do something, they're going to find a way to do it. And he was bold enough to do it even when his own children were there. And they were in such fear of him that they didn't question anything. They were beat regularly, so they thought that the child was just being punished. So that's just the way that it had to happen, or that it did happen. But we just have to do the best that we can. Like I said, we can't control everything that happens. But if we are, we're accountable, if we're there for our kids, if we teach our children, let them
Right.
know that they can talk to us, certain things might not happen to them. But just like, I was talking about earlier, how that man was like, oh, mommy's afraid something's going to happen to her little baby. Like, there's some people out there that there's,
Sarcastic sugar tank fool.
yeah, there's
You
just
know
some
what?
weirdos.
You know what? You know what? I'll be a weirdo in a good way back at him. I'll be like, yeah, and a person like you ain't gonna put his hands on my child because you're mad because you ain't gonna have no way to get to him. You know what? Whoever your maker is, if you ever thought about that, which I know you're thinking about it, your mama gonna be crying because I'm gonna put these hands on you. You know what I mean? No,
Exactly.
I feel right on back.
And it's not even only about, sex. A lot of kids, they be forgetting people's kid in the van, in the school van. They forget him in there. And you know how hot it is down here, Lance. And for a
Florida?
child to be in a car, I'm,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, if y'all have never lived in Florida, you do not know how hot it is. If you have never lived in like the Caribbean or whatever, like it gets hot. Like honestly, South Florida is not a good place for you to like have a car that doesn't have air conditioning.
Oh
So,
man.
you could just imagine, it gets hot down here.
Yeah.
It gets hot. And so when these
Right.
kids, be left in the car and stuff like that, they don't have a chance. I can only imagine. So, it's not only about people, it's about me wanting the best for my child in every way. And if the best for my child is for my child to not go to school until he can, clearly speak to me and speak up for himself, then that's what I'm going to do for my son. And, one thing that I had to do is accept that, in this time right now, I might not be moving exactly how I want to move. I might not be achieving all of the goals, but one thing that I know that Spirit has told me is to sit down and to enjoy certain things and to enjoy nature, to be with my children,
Yes.
to, be a mother to them.
Yes.
I might not have all the money in the world, but, my spirit has been telling me to sit down and be
Right.
with your children, be a mother. And I'm honored that my parents are able to help me to have that for my kids, because my parents couldn't do that for me. I had to get dropped off and stay with my godmother for like, the weekend or maybe the whole week, the whole summer. And my
Mhm.
parents had to go to work. So, I'm able to do certain things because of my parents. But, you know, it's all about us being there for our kids and having a better future for them, because we are our ancestors, and our children are literally us. Our
Right.
children are literally a replication of us. So if you want the best for yourself, why wouldn't you want the best for your child? And that's just all that we're here talking about today is paying attention to the children, being there for them, being honest with them. Stop with the blind eye, because things can happen. Things happen to me, happen to people who I know. These things happen. It doesn't, you can be the best parent and something just might happen to your child, and we just have to approach situations with love, truth, and honesty. And so I really hope that you guys can share this video with any young people or whoever you really think that could, use this message, because, I know we've talked about this, we talked about that, we talked about this, but
That's how we
essentially,
do.
yeah, essentially they all play into each other, because we start talking about molestation in church, and seeing how being a single parent affects Black men, when we put them on child support and all this stuff, because it's such a big web with like over our community. It's such a big web that we have to really fix to repair
Mhm.
some of the damage that's within our community. But everything's not going to be perfect, but we definitely can do it, and it's going to take each and every one of us to just do a little bit. And you might think that, oh, I can't do anything because I'm just this one person, but really, you can do something. If you change one person and you touch one person and you do something for them, you don't know who they in turn will be able to reach, who they'll be able to reach, and who they'll be able to help, and who they'll be able to touch. So that's all I wanted to talk about tonight, so that we could just continue with the healing within
Yes,
our community.
yes. And like I said, you make the call, you do the show. Whenever something hits your spirit that you want to speak about, that's how we have to do it now. Because we're like antennas. We pick up things. I might not pick up something as strong that you did, but maybe I'll sense it a little bit, and then we all come together. We got to whip it in live time. It doesn't have to be where, we make this production and all this. We just get on here and talk and have the real conversations. And we send that energy out there, and it'll go over somebody else's head because other people's radios, their mental, may not have the antennas to pick it up, but maybe somebody else will, and go to them and tell them, hey, this is what you need to do. We need to do that, because the main thing is that these entities out here who are ruining things and against all things natural and all things creation, they don't like you. They don't like me. They will try to convince you or me that we're not effective in the conversations and vibrations that we can put out there. They're angry if we're not distracted. Even all of us are using social media, but they're angry that some of us are not distracted. I get on it. I get on it for hours every day. But I show you the results of what's done. When we put things out, I look at things sometime, but that's in the minority because I'm like an antenna. I pull down downloads. Not saying I'm right, but things that you need to think about. We all can do that, and we can use this as leverage. So don't hesitate. If it's tomorrow, the next day, with Lance, I got to talk about this. I want to talk for 10 hours. I want to talk for 5 minutes, whatever. I'm going to record something, send it to you. Let's keep everything going. We'll still have some fun, but let's keep everything going because that's the right thing to do. And I do appreciate you for taking the time, take as much time as you want. And we do what we do here, because it is making a difference. Somebody's out there listening or will be listening, that the words and stories that you shared will definitely impact their life for sure.
Yes. Yes, thank you so much, Lance. I'm very appreciative of you. And every single time, I just want to always give you your flowers, just for having this platform, because it just helps us so much. And it's just a great thing, especially the younger children. They're here with technology, and hopefully they're watching these YouTube videos, and we can already see it because I hear them. Even people who are younger than me, even though I'm still young, but people who are younger than me, I hear them, when they're in the chat, or even sometimes when they call in. So it's just a beautiful thing. And we know we're doing a beautiful thing, even when the enemy tries to come up against us and, try to shut us down, or when we're speaking truth, or, a little troll might come in the chat room, but, we still keep going. We still keep flowing. We still keep speaking the truth. So
Trust me, let them come. I'll put hands on them. Pop, pop. Wow. So you have a great evening. It's a great evening for me because you were here with me today and everybody who's listening. I saw Sister Ambience pass through and I have her stuff to put off, and this is what I do. It's a beautiful thing. So I'll end it right here if you're finished. And
Yes.
when you're ready, hit me up. You got my number. I got your number. Just, hey, Lance, just tell me we're going to do this today or we're going to do this tomorrow. Yeah, I love it like that. I love it like that.
I will, Lance. I will. Thank you. Trust me. I will. All right. Bye, guys. Bye, family.
Right. Take care, y'all. Thank you. Thank you so much, sister. Have a good night. Yes, another episode that we wrapped up. I hope you all got something from it. I don't know I'm preaching to the choir because so many of you here are so brilliant and aware. So it's those who may not be here or those who may not have that awareness. Not that I'm on some super high frequency over everybody, but I'm like Don King without the hair. I will get the butts in the seat. So whoever wants to listen can listen. Some people say, oh, that stuff they're talking is so boring. Well, they might be at that level right now, but they might hear something that will resonate with them later on and say, man, that was the kind of stuff they were talking about. And I kind of need to know that. Like I said, if you take a meal that takes an hour to bake and put it in the oven and you pull it out after 9 minutes, it's not going to be the meal you thought it was going to be. It's not ready yet. So we have to understand that not everybody is ready to hear what you may have to say. But if you do it in a kind and loving way, later on they'll think and they say, hey, this is making more sense to me now. Because like I always say, every corn in the bag of popcorn does not pop at the same time. Some never pop. Let's hope that nobody hears that corn that never popped. But some, as soon as you put it in the microwave, halfway through, you take the bag out the microwave. As soon as you take it out, pop, pop. That's those late bloomers, right? So that's the way it is. And we deal with what's in our path. Like I said, we have our area of concern and our area of effectiveness, of what we can do around, that we can touch. Somewhere in another country, somewhere, we might not be affected that way, but we can affect what's in our path. So if you do what you have to do, and I do what I have to do, and everybody in our midst do what we have to do, we can cover great ground. The main thing is just keep on moving, keep yourself healthy, keep yourself strong. Some days you need to take a day off because we're hit with so many things when we come outside of our door. And sometimes we come home and mentally and spiritually, we're hit with so many things because those energies that we had to get around us still on us, and we're only human. So let's rest up, keep strong, and do what we got. Oh, you just popped some popcorn, huh? Right? Wow. Ain't that something? I picked up on it. I heard one of the pops all the way from Florida to Accra, Ghana. Anyway, y'all, I hit that song that didn't want to stop, and I'm going to load up some new songs and stuff like that. But right now, let me play something from in here, and we'll wrap this down. What did I just hit? Okay. I hit one of the comments. Let me see. Okay, I don't know how that happened. This computer is so sensitive, right? But it is what it is. So I feel good.
Why are we called Negroes? Why are we deaf, dumb, and blind? Why is everybody making progress, yet we seem to be lagging so far behind? Why are we mistreated? Why are we in this condition, stripped of our names, our language, our culture, our God, and our religion? Here in America, all of our religious training has been gotten by the preacher. He has told us of a heaven way up in the sky that we can't enjoy now, but rather after we die. But all of the years that we're living. For us there's nothing but hell, pain, torture, and misgiving. Yet the Bible speaks of a heaven filled with material luxury, which the white man and the preacher has right here, so we see. So my friend, take it for what it's worth. Your heaven and your hell is right here on this earth. So let's check back into history, which rewards all research and tells us plainly. Before the white man gained entry to the East, he was living in the caves of Europe, a ravenous beast, eating juniper roots and eating flesh raw, till God sent Moses to civilize him and teach him the law. Then, following Marco Polo, an explorer, he gained entry into Asia and Africa. From China he took silk and gunpowder. From India he took jute, manganese, and rubber. He raped Africa of her diamonds and her gold. From the Mideast he took barrels of oil untold. Raping, robbing, and murdering everything in his path. The whole black world has tasted of the white man's wrath. So my friend, it's not hard to tell. A white man's heaven is a black man's hell. Before we came to America, we were living in the East. By the Nile River, we were living in luxury, enjoying freedom, justice, and equality. We wore silken robes and slippers of gold. We were the wealthiest and the wisest people, I'm told. Now we are the poorest of the poor. Nobody wants us at their door. So my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven, black man hell. When the white man came to America, he told the Indian, I am your white brother. He said, red man, I'll treat you the best. Yet and still he pushed the Indian further west with his white woman and firewater. With tricks and lies he stole America. The original owner of this nation is cooped up on a reservation. So my friend, it's easy to tell. White man heaven is black man hell. He needed someone to work the land. His back was too weak